A day of which it is like no other. There is a buzz around the paddock. There is a chance to jump and say, I want the best place I can, and to sit yourself down here in Mount Panorama and say your 6th annual Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12-hour, presented by Player One Sim, is now ready to get itself into racing. This is all about the battle for pole position tonight. Two classes that all look at each other and say, well, can I be top of Porsches and can I be top of the GT3s? That's where everyone is going to be sat and saying this legendary circuit needs to find the almighty Midas touch. My name's Jake Sperry. Along with me for this qualifying action is David Haynes. And David, what a day we are getting set in and ready for, as these teams have been eyeing this one up all year and saying, look, the best opportunity is going to come from the best starting position possible, and they'll be looking to hold out for what will be the toughest half an hour or even potentially the toughest hour of their life.
Yes, you don't need to be Sir Edmund Hillary to look at this mountain and say, I think I'd like to climb that. It's one of the most challenging racetracks anywhere in the world whenever you really, really try to push to the limit. And that's what everyone is going to have to do tonight with these qualifying sessions ahead of us to set the grid for tomorrow's big OSR Bathurst 12-hour by Player One Sim Gear. This is the schedule for proceedings. 30 minutes for Porsche Cup qualifying, 60 minutes of GT3 qualifying, of which there are many, many cars, and then the GT3 Superpole.
Yeah, that GT3 superpole then will give you just 15 minutes with the top 15 out on track. You've got to find your space and make sure you can get yourself up there. That clock will not stop for the period of time, which starts from the top of the Porsche Cup over to superpole. So we're talking an hour and 35 minutes to get everything all set up and sorted. So they will all be going to get themselves set. But if you don't know this circuit, here's a little Google Earth view down onto what makes this track tick here as we find ourselves deep within New South Wales, over into Bathurst and Mount Panorama, a circuit that has run this mountain road since its inception. Just the one change on the circuit in its entire history, David, and it's quote-unquote the most iconic overtaking place, which is what they've created there, that small gravel traps that you see there down through 20 to 22, the fabled corner, the fastest one in Australian sim racing, the Chase.
Yeah, the chicane on pit entry, I think, also came in at some point, but as far as the racetrack layout, that's the only adjustment to break up Conrod Straight about 2/3 of the way down, but it is still monumentally fast. They're exiting from Forest's Elbow downhill, picking up so much speed. The lap begins at Hell Corner, turn 1, which is uphill, and then continues up past all the nice properties either side of the road. Griffin's Bend, deceptive, the challenge there. You try to carry so much speed, the road's cambered to help you, but there's no runoff on the outside, because once you go through turn 2, you're pretty much into the most street circuit, temporary circuit feeling part of this racetrack, where there becomes no room for error. Braking as you turn up into the cutting, looking for a good exit there. A bump at turn 5 on the apex makes picking up the throttle difficult. 6 and 7 at Reed Park is super committed, heading over the crest of the hill and apexing on the inside and the outside on the concrete walls. The compression at Sulman Park and Metal Great, over at the crest at the highest point of the racetrack for turn 10 McPhillamy Park, and then you're diving off of Brock's Skyline.
Yeah, and then that run down the hill will feel like going down a whitewater rapid as you hit the S's, the Dipper, down to the Forest Elbow, which pretty much sets up your run for home over at Conrod, that chase corner, which will be so critical at 21 and 22. And then Murray's to end the lap, just a 90-degree left-hander, innocuous in the way it looks, but so difficult after all of the effort that you've exerted out there at this stage. Currently in the throes of practice for these drivers, quote-unquote a final practice as they go, but look at that on the radar there. There's just a hint of blue that's coming across, and actually a hint of green that's following behind it. That is Category 1 and Category 2 Ray that is getting itself on the horizon. And David, I think that's going to put a little bit of a shock out there for these drivers, because if that's going to hit in qualifying, I think that might hit either just at the end of the Porsche GT Cup cars, or it might just hit at the start of action then for those looking for the run for pole.
Yeah, I'm looking at the radar too and saying that that rain is about 40 minutes away, but there's always a little time jump from the end of one session into the next when we go from this practice into qualifying. I think that weather will jump even closer. So the first competitive action on track in 8 minutes time is going to be qualifying for Porsche Cup cars, and I suspect you will want to be hurrying out on track if the track is dry still, because then that rain will be coming. Got to make note of the 2 categories of car for this year's event.
Yeah, so you've got the lights here of Joshua Houghton here for Vermilion Esports. He is in Porsche GT3 at the moment and looking to try and push on here, currently 7th in this practice, and have a really good run of things. As actually we do get a change of fastest lap as Momentum Racing 78, and Rodrigo Mies, a lovely quick Chilean, getting himself right up there at the pointy end with there the likes of Jack Widders there to help out in terms of the team. That is a wonderful time that we see out there on the board. So we are seeing the individuals there. We've got the cars out there in GT3. Now they're spec to a balance of performance up against each other, but turn around as well, and you know that you've got the Porsche Cup category, but that Cup car has had a lot of balance of performance done to it to make it the second car out there. I think it drives like no other series out there in iRacing ever has.
It's a very significant power cut to these Porsche Cups, just to make them sit snugly within these class groups, make them play a little bit nicer with all of the GT3s. We've got 38 GT3s and 12 Porsche Cup cars in session at the moment. Chance that we might get 1 or 2 more appear, and that's about the grid sizes that we're going to have for the big race tomorrow. Far more GT3s than Porsche Cups. Cup cars just had their wings clipped a little bit so that they're not providing too much nuisance down the long straights here, and they're a little easier to get by before the corners.
Yeah, that's just about making sure there's clearance in play so that there isn't any worry at all that you've got a car that pretty much on paper would only be a couple tenths of a second if you left it all out there on the table. But as we focus here with Damon Woods out there looking to pilot the #1 car for Falcon Sim Racing team. It is him. There is, of course, Lewis Woods who's there, and then, of course, James Boumet. Sorry, Cody Deek, I'll correct myself there. So you've got Damon Woods, Cody Deek, and James Boumet in this team. This is a team that on their day can go out there and absolutely challenge anybody in the world of sim racing. This is a team that when you sit down and look at the World Sim Racing World GT Championship, David, they are on top in that one with the combination of James Boumet and Nikolai Pulisic.
Yeah, that's a real combination and a global combination of good names in that car, and there is some interesting world flair to take a look at. So most of the grid is Australian and New Zealand drivers. Then we've got some others from around the world. We've got Momentum Racing, who seem to be from and representing Chile, and they are 1 and 2 in this warm-up session. So they think that's going to place them well going into their qualifying, but they're going to have to park up and wait for GT Cup cars from Porsche. Before then, it's time for Class A cars a little bit later. So in that Porsche Cup class, Rick Kuznetsov has been the fastest in the warm-up for Vermilion, and then there's the other Momentum car that we were just taking a look at in Porsche Cup, their second. Harley Galea has a vaguely Chilean-sounding name, but is flying the flag of Australia on the door.
Yeah, and Galea is a popular name that comes Alex out there by surname from the island of Malta as well. So that bit of heritage there. Both 9-5 sim support with Jaden Wilcox, who is out there at this stage, just looking to find himself a spot in the traffic, letting both of the one performance cars there of Jake Edwards and Dylan Sheffield go by. John Heisling goes through, and so too Daniel Yeaman over at Orbit Drop Bear, so influential in and around the likes of V8 Scott out there as they go through. Now this 682 team has a lot of shouty potential to go around the circuit. They've got Dan Yeaman currently behind that BMW at this moment inside, but critically Scott Rankin in there as well. Lockhart Brownlee, some would argue he's scored a short stick there with those two, but I think he's going to really enjoy himself.
Yeah, they're in the BMW, which has had the Evo kit applied to it, the BMW M4 GT3, and this year at the 12 hours was the first year of WRT racing with the Evo kit. Different headlights, very, very tiny mirrors. The mirrors have shrunk on either side of the car. And they are going to hope that across the variety of conditions they'll face, that's a car that can be competitive for them. We're seeing that across a 12-hour race, you are going to have to face a lot of different conditions. Starting in the dark tomorrow, then the sun will rise, heat up the track, and then always the chance of some weather about as well. And that really shuffles the deck in terms of, you know, what setup is good, what car model is good across very changeable conditions in a long race.
Listen, well, we're going to look at this as they go through. Now, the fastest car that we saw in pre-qualification is not currently here at this moment in time. Now, I think that's actually quite an interesting fact as they set themselves up. So that fastest car was Orbit Drop Bear Jupiter. It's the only Orbit Drop Bear car. In fact, they've only just dropped themselves into session. They just haven't gone out to any time to practice. That's
drops of Jupiter,
Sean
you would
Campbell.
say?
Yes, drops of Jupiter. It's a case of get on the train. But at least at this stage, Sean Campbell was the driver, the American, who did the time. Now, if you were going to be Sean Campbell jumping in and trying to make this effort work, you'd be asking yourself to get up at what would be right now 3 o'clock in the morning to go and put that effort in. It's Lachlan Capel who will be trying to work the number 68 car into a good qualifying position. So this is now going to be a real test for that team of their depth.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about this though, because you've still got more than half an hour until the GT3 cars need to qualify. It's an all-in warm-up right now, but then we go to a 30 minutes of only Porsche Cup qualifying, and then after that goes the GT3. So they're not quite going to be late for their flight, but if you're a Porsche Cup car, you better be checked in and waiting at the gate right now, because we are about 50 seconds away from the boarding call.
Yeah, and so those Porsches are now going to be the first focus out there. And sometimes you say when you jump into the second category out there, or the slower category, that it can be often a case of, okay, it's maybe going to be a little bit tougher out there to go and get this sorted for you to get the result that you need. But you also have the understanding that you're going to be the first cars out there. You're going to be the first one really going to attack. And we take a look at what the Porsche Cups were able to do in practice. Vermilion Esports happy with Rick Kuznetsov then as the fastest in the number 24, a 204.4, about a quarter of a second quicker than Harley Galea for Momentum Racing, 9.5 in third, and Australia-wide Racing Blue with Shane Clancy then in fourth position. 7 cars within a second then as they went down through to the likes of Peter Wilkinson for the Locked On Lads Racing team. You then got Robbie Bradbury there for Pacific Esports, and Lachlan Pryke for Rapid Theft Racing 65. Vinny Wynn and Gavin Simpson for Frog Leap Juice there for blue and green, making up the field as they go. Officially now, we have entered into the realm of qualifying, and it is looking set right now at an in-sim time of 12:05. Rain is expected in 25 minutes here, David. And so I would say for these Porsches, it is as simple as this. Get out on track and get a good lap quick.
Don't wait, don't delay. Make your way directly to setting at least a banker lap. It seems like the rain will hold off for long enough that you'll get a couple of runs in, but don't think that all of that 30 minutes is going to be yours. And be careful on your outlap not to lock up both of your front tyres and push a little bit wide, unless that's how you got to warm them up. I'll only warm up one spot on the tyre though.
Yeah, so that's why you're going to have many different cycles to go and warm up the tyres out there as they go. Now, it is important to know that this is a session that is live stewarded right now. Race control is full with Dan Stevens, Mike Korolev, Peter Baxter and Simon Black. They've got an eagle eye on all corners of the circuit here for any car that finds itself off the road and in the barriers. If they do find a car in the barriers, the track has the ability to be neutralized with a red flag available. They can see it on our graphics. We're just showing it here. We're not actually in a red flag condition at this moment, but critically, if this circuit were to red flag, it means that all laps would have to stop. Any lap that you're on wouldn't count. And critically, as you go and set, the timer does not stop in a red flag period until the circuit is cleared up once again. So I think that's really important to note for qualifying. One of the more unique things here with the Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12-hour presented by Player One Sim Gear. This is going to be a very hard-fought qualifying. And so you look around and you say here, as we focus with Thomas Leprake for Australia-wide Racing Yellow, don't over-push it, because everyone's going to be in trouble if you do.
Luckily for these Porsche Cup cars, there is only 12 of them out on track. Things are going to get really busy when it becomes GT3's turn, but exactly, it's going to really eat into the clock if we do get a red flag, because it will be a time-certain session. We can't hang about with GT3 qualifying and the Sudspeed Superpole to come. So we begin the first flying laps with the 7:05. Different ways to approach preparing the tyres on that outlap. Momentum Racing and Vermilion are the ones that have pushed hardest on the outlap. Now we're going to get the first representative true sectors.
Yeah, and this is where you start the lap and you see the time bleed come along through turn 2 at the quarry corner, and now up towards the cutting here, 3 and 4, double take entry, and there's a tiny correction there by Thomas Leprake as he tried to work over through into 4. You've got to be careful about the balance of the car. It will sit sluggish a little bit with the amount that's there. Look at that, grazing the wall on the left-hand side. Now, if you're not careful with it, that might incur, David, a 0x incident point. And what I mean by a 0x is you've got that iRacing-based system that is there for all races. 1x is if you have yourself an off-track. 2x for losing control. 4x for major contact with something. A 0x is a minor contact. It just notes that you've made contact, but on a qualifying lap, if you make contact with something, the lap doesn't count.
4X's is also a Taylor Swift album. We'll take a look here at Reed Park. Front tyres, I don't think, are there yet. The car kind of understeers coming over the crest, gets wide into the Fujitsu concrete barrier there. I reckon that's probably this lap discounted for Leprake. But you'll think about seeing it out. Braden Martin from Locked On Lads here, just a little bit behind on track, looking to complete a lap. Some of the first scored laps are about to come in, and that timing column on the left will suddenly look a lot more exciting.
Yeah, we'll see what this is going to be on the charge into Murray's corner and over towards the line. Lap did count there. Australia-wide Racing Yellow. Worth noting, it was a 2:07.1, so they got away with it there on their attempt. But Braden Martin, half a second quicker than on a 2:06.6. Sean McLaughlin now looking to make the push over towards the line. HCS Racing Yellow went fastest for a moment, but Rick Kuznetsov half a second quicker than that, a 2:05.4 first attempt, as the likes of Jaden Wilcox for 9.5 will now make that push over towards the line and gets that car up to second on a 2:05.7. Raymond Mallin then hoping for a good time out there in the 780, and Momentum Racing there, the Kiwi, jumping up there to 7th place with that attempt. And finally, Alexander Morris then looking to put a time down for Australia-wide blue, and 4:05 goes second as well, just a couple hundredths quicker than 9:5 Supersport. The one car that hasn't gone out and set a time right now is focused on what a beautiful livery on that Porsche Cup Car 992.2. That is there going about. Only car that hasn't set a time right now that's only just got out the pits, TriStar Racing 711 and Matt Arnold.
Yeah, here they are going through Griffin's Bend right now, but you're correct. No time scored for them just yet. Now, we know that rain's not that far away, but the track temperature is still climbing. 29 degrees Celsius when they went out on track, 30 now. So early in the session could have been a little bit of a sweet spot as well with that regard, but there might be a golden 1 minute opportunity when the first sprinkle of rain comes and it hits the racetrack and it evaporates off, and the track doesn't get wet just yet, but it begins to lose its temperature. And with an air temp of 21 but a track temp of 30, that first 30 seconds of lightly sprinkling rain, you could actually set, if you're really gutsy, a good time in that.
But you do need the tyres to work in your favour. You need a couple of seconds that will just play out for you. It takes a couple laps to get sorted, and Lachlan Bright going second. HTS Yellow go fastest, and they are eclipsed again by Vermilion. A 2:04.9 that is just fractionally quicker, only by near 3/4 of a tenth. Sean McLaughlin was shy by. Harley Galea there in third for Momentum X PRNZ, so they'll be happy with that. Matt Arnold's on an outlap at the moment, looking to go onto a flyer as Raymond Mallon then goes in fourth. This is a perfect chance to take an onboard lap view on what this circuit is like for these Porsche 9922 Cup cars that sit themselves out. And for Matt Arnold right now, you get a real sense that even on this, I would say by comparison, tiny front stretch compared to the two straights that eclipse it on either side, you're already getting a sense of how bumpy the surface is.
Yeah, we're also seeing that the tyres are better than just one and done over a couple of laps they keep on giving. So for Matt Arnold here, sure, he's going to be pushing on this lap, the one after, and the one after could still be quicker. So are they going to be phased just right with their tyres to set a good lap right before that patch of rain arrives? It's the front tyres that seem like they don't quite come in. Matt Arnold, he's doing all the right stuff. 7:11 is personal bests, but about a second down in the first sector compared to the current provisional pole time.
Yeah, so he's going to need to really wake up here and hope that the time is going to come back. If not, he's just trying to get it into an operating window at the moment. Now take an eye down this hill here, how little sight line you have, and you've just got to basically pick the car through this section. Make sure that you are hitting each and every apex. If you even so much as look at a corner down through here to the Forest Elbow funny, you're going to be in the barriers. And let's be honest here, David, they do not budge, those barriers. You will get a massive hit as you go through. What a time by Rick Kuznetsov, though. 2:04.4. He has just hit his practice time by just a couple hundred shy.
Yeah, and the third flying lap on that set of tyres as well. So it was out lap, first lap, second lap, third lap, each one quicker than the one before. We'll see if it can keep on giving or if he's going to back off at about now. But it suggests that there's at least 3 good laps out of these tyres, and the optimal comes quite a bit after you put a new set of tyres on. The run plans are going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, we'll take a little replay here, courtesy of Logitech G. This is down into the chase and on the brakes, trying to get it sorted. Oh, look at the way that car hopped over both curbs there. So it got a massive kickback as it managed to regain onto circuit. And when you're losing the contact patches over the front of the car like that, there's not much you can do to go and save it. That, to me, indicates a tiny bit of a balance problem.
And don't eat that much of the curb there at the chase is also one of the lessons learned. That's going to be that lap done out of the 95. Rick Kuznetsov said 3 flying laps from the Vermilion 24. He has backed off no purple sectors on this lap. Might be time to get in, get a new set of tyres. We're looking at rain 15 minutes away.
Yeah, so this is getting a little tight for drivers' liking. There you can see a Category 2 band of rain coming. So Category 1 is light blue and green. That's Category 2. Braden Martin going up to 7th position as Vermilion Esports again happy with their effort, but this time a 204.8 there from Rick Kuznetsov. So maybe a slight cool lap before going for a push once again. And as we take a look then around what is a beautiful drive for Jaden Wilcox at the moment, would like to be up higher than a 205.7 at this moment, over the top of Skyline and back down the hill again, diving for the angle and try and take as much circuit as you can through this section. And Jaden Wilcox understanding then out of the dipper and into the forest elbow that he is probably not where his pace would tell you he should be. He set a time in practice out there for 9.5 Sim Sport that right now would be good enough for second.
Yeah, this is a new set of tyres as well going on for the 95. So they did 2 flying laps, then put a new set on. I think we might have seen them on their first flying lap hitting that curb, and then that lap kind of went out the window, and now we're bringing this second set of tyres into phase, into grip, trying to get the balance across the front and the rear. Famously, not a lot of weight on the front tyres. Rear tyres probably heat up quite a bit quicker than those fronts do. Wilcox crosses the line and will move to 6th.
So an improvement there to a 205.4, but there is still time to be had as we go to Braden Martin here for Locked On Lads Racing 268. Got a very lovely podcast as well, did a Locked On Lads, and it's been something that they've been very much focused on as they've gone. This is now diving into the pits. First time to talk about pit lane properly. You've got this left, right, left chicane. It almost is at you like you're trying to chain punches in a boxing match. Very tough to get correct as you dive on in, and a single track pit lane to get correctly. Oh, lap. Rick Kuznetsov, 204.3. He's half a second clear.
Had 1 lap to cool the tyres down and then has gone again and gone about a 10th quicker. So he's done now 5 flying laps on that same set of tyres. Must have left pit lane with actually a fair bit of fuel in the car. Australia Wide Racing 405 in second. Followed the same run plan here. They are on the same set of tyres since the beginning of this session 14 minutes ago. Almost everyone else has been in, put a new set of tyres on, presumably put a couple more laps of fuel in if they started light. That final corner was not convincing on what otherwise was a lap with a couple of PB sectors in it, and Morris just a subtle improvement.
And Caldwell then puts down a 205.9, and the Australia Wide Racing yellow Porsche 992 Cup, and so we'll be sitting in 11th position. Raymond Mallin, I think, just looking to try and get a bit of space out there to warm the tyres, as Harley Galea then in the 708 Momentum X PRNZ car looks for time, and so too does Jaden Wilcox here, who is on a lap for 9.5. We'll see what this is out of Murray's, and a very short run over towards the line. That's better, 205.123. That will jump Momentum and put them up into 5th position. Second of the Momentum cars, has to be said, with Raymond Mallin, then the fastest of those in 3rd position. So Vermilion Esports peak up. It's not often that you get to look at a category like this, David, and you see one car and one team out there at the top, just in, I would say, in syncopation with each other and going, look, we're going to have a massive grip on the top of this field. And this number 24 from Vermilion absolutely has that sorted as they'll come down to pit lane.
And opportunities to usurp them are a very narrow and closing window. rain surely no more than about 5 minutes away. There are a few cars that could get out there and improve. Momentum Racing in third are on their first flying lap of a new set of tyres, and then they'll probably keep building into the next 2 or 3 laps before this rain arrives. Lachlan Pryke from Rapid Theft 65 completing the second flying lap on a new set of tyres here. So then you expect that, hey, not bad, within a thousandth of a second there, that then this next lap will be even quicker based on what we've seen these tyres doing.
Yeah, so Lachlan Pryke here is trying to work on this lap, knowing that that rain is not far away at all. I probably put it down as about within the next 10 minutes. I'm expecting it, so with maybe about 5 minutes to go. Watch this one be a little bit worrisome. Good lap time there from Cam Culverwell for Australia-wide Racing Yellow. Good enough to jump up to 7th place with a 2:05.4. It is getting a little bit busy in and around the 2:05s at this moment, with all cars have been able to get there. There is Harvey Galea doing well. Lachlan Pryke up over the top then through the Griffin's Mount 5 and into 6 at Reed Park. So now you're starting to go through these corners and you're trying to wake up and say, look, these left-handers, they're committed over the metal grade, now at McPhillamy, and this is where you get, I would say, half a second to breathe. That curve on the right-hand side, so easy to spit a car out.
And that's the part of the racetrack that is where the rain is going to arrive from, coming from the southeast. So from the elbow here and around the top of the mountain is where the rain is going to arrive first. It's going to come there before it works its way to the pit straight. Whole bunch of PB sectors out there as we get a little bit more cloud cover. There is going to be a magic sort of 2 minutes where the track cools off but isn't wet yet.
And I think those 2 minutes are going to be quite critical in the reality of what they set, because they know they're going to be in a position where if the rain is just going to start cooling the circuit, that's going to be difficult. That's a little over grab there on the inside curb from Lachlan Pryke. He's got to be careful that he doesn't do that too often. He had to really correct the steering there through the middle of turn 22 and over towards the line. Will this one be good? No, because that would have invalidated the lap there by cutting the course slightly. So that's going to be troublesome in the late stages of this qualifying for the Porsche Cup cars, which have only half an hour to get to where they want. Matt Arnold improves, 2:05.9. That's enough to put Pacific Esports Racing, Robbie Bradbury, on the wooden spoon as they are going to make their push, and that they're on a 2:10, so this would have been a sighter for them out there. Vidi win for Frog Leap Juiced Racing Blue, looking to make the run over and hope that this is going to gear up for a lap. 2:17 would have been, I'm backing off and I'm going to go for it now. Harley Galea's not going to find improvement either, so it might be down to Raymond Mallin here through the final corner, hoping to get momentum up onto the front row of the Porsche field. 2:04.8, so improved by a tenth of a second, but still needs half a tenth.
Where they are in that run, though, I think there's one more lap that they could improve on, just based on the age of their tyres, and there's a few other teams that are just cycling theirs in. Australia-wide have just gone to a new set of slick tyres. I don't think they're going to have time to get that in before, get those tyres warmed up before this rain comes along. 9.5 SimSport, having gone purple in the second sector on their last lap, but then aborted, have gone purple in the first sector. Suddenly the car in 6th place has found some speed. Pacific Esports Racing want to close their gap to the rest of the pack.
Yeah, they're going to want to do what they can. They're holding as they go around 60 kilograms worth of ballast on the car to slow it down. A power restriction on the engine of 5%. And quite critically as well, they have not altered the fuel in terms of this car and the balance of performance. Rain practically here now as they start to think about, okay, into the final 10 minutes, you've got to get these laps in before the rain starts falling, and they are all going to be out there on track at the zenith of this qualifying, getting what they can. Matt Arnold, I think, out of usable tyre, worst time for him to go and get that then. Here comes Braden Martin coming around the final corner and hoping that there's going to be improvement here. It's not going to count, but Kuznetsov then is going to hit the line and does do a 2:05.3 rather than a 2:04. So he's trying to get up through the motions. Robbie Bradbury crossing on a 2:05.9. He will improve out there, but his lap will not count.
I think he ran too wide out of the final corner, the very, very last hurdle. His Harley Galea pitching that in very well, but also then just pushing out a little wide. It's sort of all or nothing with the weather on the horizon. 9.5 have been pushed down into 7th, but so far this lap has looked really good, and the cumulative sectors have been very strong. They jump into 2nd place, 4/10 behind provisional pole. When they just string all of those magic sectors together, the pace was always there for 9.5 Sim Sport, but it's tough around more than 6 kilometers to string 23 good corners together.
It really is, and we'll note as well, the rain is going to be entering from Hell Corner first and foremost with the weather. So I think that's really critical, because it means that the last place you're going to see the rain is the place you don't want it, which will be this section here. Any rain at this section that will elongate your braking zone, that will catch you out, is the last thing that these drivers will be looking for. You've got the likes of Cam Culverwell and Braden Martin in front, and here comes the rain then. So we have now hit the rain with 8.25 minutes left to go, and suddenly everyone's going to be lighting up right now like it's an NFL 2-minute drill out there, like you're in the final 3 overs of a T20 match. It's very much this case of everyone is going to have to wake up and find the best time they can. Cam Culverwell going to hit the brakes. Still dry at the moment down here, and oh, that's going to be wide in front, and this could balk the lap then with Braden Martin in front, who is also out there on a lap. Big troubles they go through, so that's going to stop Cam Culverwell's attempt here. Braden Martin, who was running wide there through the chase, has to be very careful now, crossing the line. 2:05.8, that's not close enough to what he needs. A 2:04.341. That's only 7 thousandths shy by Rick Kuznetsov. Really consistent on the effort. Robbie Bradbury now for Pacific is going to come across with a 2:08.
Well, this is that magic 2 minutes that we're in right now. It is power surge activated. The track temperature will just be beginning to drop in places like Forest's Elbow, but you give it another minute and then the track will become wet. Once that green line reaches the purple line, there's no more heat left in the surface to evaporate the water falling onto it, and that's when it begins to pool. That's when you begin to lose grip. So the rain begins, the track temperature falls till there's no temp left in it to evaporate the water off the surface.
Lachlan Pryke then just allowing Gavin Simpson to continue his lap in the 2:97, but he's diving down for pit lane. He can't go out there and improve, so that's going to be tough. Shane Clancy here for Australia Wide Racing Blue. They've been quiet here in this session since the time they set of a 2:04.798. They're 7 thousandths shy of 3rd position. Clancy to the line, 2:04.9, so he's going to have to go again, but here's the issue. You have to go again. The rain is starting to fall, and you'd be very, very worried out there that you're not going to be in an operable track that's going to sort it out. I'm looking at the track temperature as it drops already down to 23 degrees out there. So it has absolutely fallen off a cliff right now, this weather that has made the track surface cold. And cold is fast, but cold also is more oversteery. And they're looking at this now thinking, look at it how it's just dived off a cliff. It's like it's getting ready out there to jump in on a half pipe as Rick Kuznetsov. This could be the golden spot that you were talking about, David, in terms of time. Coming to the line, 2:04.2.
Yep, 2:04.298. And that green line's about to meet the purple line, and then the track will be wet, it'll be slippery, and there'll be no more improving. Shane Clancy finds some personal best sectors. Vinny Nguyen's going to come to the line, some PB sectors at the end of the lap. Just falls short of an improvement. Matt Arnold from TriStar, currently 13th place. No PB sectors on this lap so far. And you're just now, I think, at the far end of the racetrack, at the top, beginning to lose a little bit of grip. The last car I can see that stands a chance of improving is the 405.
Yeah, and that 405 Australia-wide Racing Blue is trying to do what they can to go down. You've got Lachlan Pryke there, you've got Momentum there with Harley Galea, but it looks like Momentum are going down to pit. Shane Clancy hoping that this lap is going to be there, and it could be the final last hurrah out there in this session for the Porsche 992 Cup cars. Pryke couldn't get a time in. Now Clancy through the final corner, and he'll be looking up and down, left and right, and a 2045 comes at the time they need it. They searched Australia wide for it and got a front row for their troubles. Brilliant stuff late on.
Yeah, looking at the 780 here, Momentum Racing, this car was right at the top of qualifying for a lot of the session, but they've timed it wrong on these tyres. We saw them a lap ago. It was on their out lap. They were trying to get some temperature in. This looks like their first flying lap, and the temp is just not there to deal with the moisture now falling on the racetrack. Still weaving, still trying to get more temperature, but they are perhaps just 2 minutes late to the party. The gate's closed, the plane's leaving.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do except sit there at the departure lounge and watch as it taxis and flies away. And Raymond Mallon now, this will be an attempt, no doubt about it. He's going to try and go and get it, but the question is, how saturated is the circuit at this point, and how much trouble is there going to be with 3 minutes and 10 seconds? In theory, they will have 2-lap attempt to go and find that improvement in at turn 2 at the quarry corner. You've got to be careful on the curb on the outside. Look at him pushing to the right extreme, or the left extremity, it would be, of the circuit, up into the cutting, big narrow line. Car fighting about there and almost wheel hopping there on the front left as it caught a bit up the hill, and backing well off of it there is Raymond Mallon. I think he understands that this one has gone and there's not much more I can do about it.
Yeah, and this is the part of the racetrack where the rain's been falling for longer and it starts to get more slippery up here. Hopefully someone from iRacing's been and unclogged that drain at McPhillamy Park. Bathurst Regional Council doing their work, but no one is really improving much anymore. TriStar Racing 711 just crossed the line, half a tenth away from being able to improve, so they fell short of that marker. And the rain basically brings an end to qualifying for Porsche Cup just 2 minutes before the checkered flag will.
And so for Raymond Mallon, look, you can even see the spray's kicking up on the Conrod. And so this is absolutely not the right surface out there to be driving for it. We'll have Rick Kuznetsov there just behind, who indicates through. We are very firmly in these wet conditions right now, and there isn't really much that can be said or done about it. It looks like it's going to be wet for the foreseeable future then for qualifying for GT3s, and then for the Sudspeed Superpole that will come afterwards for the top 15. So for Raymond Mallon down into pit, a job well done then in terms of that effort. 6th place, you would say, is pretty decent out there. You want to be in the top 5 really, but 6th isn't really too far off of that, so a really good attempt. Lachlan Pryke trying to get out and around at this moment, starting to drop down the hill, and big descend there through the Big Dipper. And this is going to be a formality at the moment. You have to say that Vermilion have done a wonderful job, controlled the qualifying from the front. Anytime someone's got close, they'll go, I pushed the barrier a bit further out.
Yeah, consistent improvement, and their run plan in the end was 6 flying laps on each set of tyres. So they went out lap, 6 flying laps, new set of tyres out lap, and 6 flying laps. So they made 1 tyre change. A bunch of other cars sort of went for 2 changes, and found that when you do that, you just get a cold set of tyres, and what you really need is to build temperature into them gradually to find their sweet spot in a 1 lap for qualifying. So everyone in the top 5 only made 1 stop, but behind that, the next 5 cars made 2 stops. And the tyre phasing and the timing was just right for Australia-wide Racing 405 to end up in 2nd, having spent about half of the session not really bothering the top 5.
And so it is Rick Kuznetsov who has the pole position in the Porsche Cup category with a 204.298. 3/10 clear of Shane Clancy and Australia-wide Racing Blue. HTS Racing Yellow and Sean McLaughlin then third with Jaden Wilcox and 9.5 Simsport there in fourth. Harley Galea will lead Momentum 708 ahead of 780. 5th and 6th, as it will be Cam Culverwell 7th for Australia-wide Racing Yellow and Rapid Theft Racing 65 in 8th. It's Frog Leap Juiced Racing Green in 9th, the 297, and the Locked On Lads Racing 268, who round out your top 10, as it will then be Frog Leap Juiced Blue 197 there with Vinny Wynn in 11th position. Robbie Bradbury will be there for Pacific Esports Racing number 5, and then TriStar Racing down there in number 13. So that's going to be critical as they go. Now, look there on the top. Race Control have given the Vermilion Esports P Cup car a 10-place grid penalty for an incorrect car number. David, that's the cardinal sin.
It's super costly in a 13-car field. It also goes to the TriStar Racing 711. But they were 13th of 13, but it's the car that was most dominant in the qualifying session we've just seen that will get bumped down to 11th place for an infringement there.
Yeah, so that's going to be difficult at this moment in time for everyone to go through. Now, the safety car here will pull itself around at the moment. Not just any safety car out there. This is the Logitech G safety car that will be taking its push around the circuit. And my, doesn't it look beautiful out there in its BMW livery. It is one of the funnest things to see out there, just how they decorate these cars and actually how talented some of these livery decorators are.
Yes, there was a competition to design the safety car livery, and Daniel Cox won that. So seems like this is his design on the safety car for today and tomorrow.
Yeah, so that is going to be critical as everyone gets ready. Joining us now is Scott Rankin, who is going to be out there piloting around then for the likes of Orbit Drop Bear out there in this qualifying session coming up. Scott, I believe you've only just got home to try and get yourself ready and into position. So talk about now jumping in, getting ready with pretty much next to no time available and getting yourself up near that pointy end, seeing that it's just started to chuck it down.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one, particularly if it's going to be a wet qualifying. I actually don't have that responsibility tonight. That'll be Dan Yeaman, who'll be behind the wheel of the Venus car for this evening. But if that's a wet quality, it's going to be tricky, but it's going to be being out on that racetrack at the right time. Dan's an able steerer. I don't know how much wet weather practice he's done, but the big thing is just get your head in the game, put a lap together. And I think that'll be, you know, I'll have the responsibility of starting this car tonight because it'll be tomorrow morning because I'll be the only one available. But yeah, it's Dan's got it. He'll get us through. Lockhart's not available to do qualifying, unfortunately, tonight. He got us through in terms of pre-qualifying yesterday, but this is going to be a tricky session in the wet.
I'll tell you what, I do love the High School Musical understanding of what your driver needs to do. You just got to get your head in the game. That's going to be brilliant. But Scott, we know you in terms of this scene of Australian sim racing as the premier voice that we get to hear with the Logitech G Pro Invitational then for the V8s, and having this opportunity to turn around and go from basically the commentary box over to in behind the wheel. You've got a bit of the scafey about you.
Mate, that's a compliment coming from you. Look who's talking about that one. That is that. Thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate that comment. But yeah, for me, 2026, it was a long and arduous 2025 from behind the commentary box. And I sort of had a conversation in the off season, talked to my partner a bit, talked to a few of the guys around me, joined Orbit Drop Bear January as well. Sort of been in around those guys for a long period of time. So it was, I sort of had a conversation of where is commentating going, and we've come up against pretty much the top level. Green flag's actually just been deployed in the session I just heard. So it was a debate about what's next, or what do I want to do next, and it's about getting back behind the wheel and having some fun and still ticking off that top level commentating box because I haven't lost the passion for it, but I want to get back behind the wheels some more, and that's what it's all about this year.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'll tell you what is also important for you is the fact that I've apparently interrupted you trying to cook dinner out there. So what will be your dinner of choice to watch this hour's worth of qualifying here that will be coming into play for the GT3?
Mate, I've just walked in the door from cricket, so it's nice and light and simple, not too much thinking about it. We have some lovely chicken in the air fryer that's been seasoned up by my, unfortunately not all that well partner. She got it seasoned for, but it's gone in the air fryer. We're going to have ourselves some pasta salad and a nice simple kit Thai salad. Just to keep things nice and simple tonight, but get that protein in tomorrow. Make sure we're fueled up for the race. That's the big thing.
Lovely, awesome. Scott Rankin then joining us from Orbit Drop Bear, having a wonderful time as we get ourselves set in for qualifying in the rain here around this Mount Panorama Bathurst circuit. And this really a first time that we've seen, David, pretty much throughout the entirety of practice and pre-qualifying up to this, where it's just been chucking it down. This is a real trial by fire, the opening couple of laps then, to make sure that you're understanding these conditions and you've got a car that sets itself up well in the rain.
Yeah, and Jake Sperry, as a British man, you must be loving this because chatting about the weather is no longer idle chit-chat. It's all that matters. It's of prime importance right now, and I'm looking at that weather radar. It's like petrol prices. It's going to get worse before it gets better. So everyone's out there right now just feeling out the conditions. But I think it's in about 15 minutes time to move out of this green patch of rain into the light blue, and then the track will grip up a little bit more then. We've got 40 GT3 cars and 39 of them are out there. So when the rain does ease up, it could dry up very, very quickly. Almost everyone's on wet tyres, except for two cars. Number 14 and the number 55. I don't think the number 55 encountered a problem on their slick tyres out there.
Yep, so it's a case of try and find yourself a chance, and they would have had the 5 minutes basically between sessions where no one was out there, and it's given a real chance for rain to go down. There's the WKMP SimSport car. Blake Warboys is going to be putting the lap time in, and he is absolutely rapid on his day, is Blake. He is fantastic in that number 14, and he looks to be very aggressive as one of those drivers gearing up for that flying lap and getting what they can. Kieran Potter is the one who will be out there on the front of everyone, setting the benchmark for everyone to go and try and beat up through the cutting then for the Proline Esports car. Look at the way that Lamborghini has to fight through the middle of the corner and maybe really struggling to get that temperature in. You need this mountain to help give you that, and you'll get that exacerbated maybe on the right side tyres. You've got to take different lines up the top. The more it rubbers in over the course of this section, the slippier it's going to get from the track that has had all that rubber laid down on it. So you've got to find the different line as you go over the top, and on a street section, quote unquote, where there's normally only one line there, that's never ideal.
No, there's not many places you actually can take a different line, particularly not through here. We saw him try to run a little bit wide at McPhillamy Park. You can stay another car, half a car width off the apex at Murray's and Hellcorn, but almost everywhere else. You just got to deal with the fact that the track is very, very slippery. We'll see how the wet tyres fire up in these conditions. We know from the supercars that the slick tyres on that car fire up very quickly. The wet tyres take a while to build temperature and begin to grip, and I'm wondering if it's going to be similar out of these GT3 tyres. Purple sectors are split all throughout the field on the first flying laps here and on the out laps, so all sorts of different cars finding pace in different areas.
Well, first time over the line, and that's 2:20.5, so don't expect them to be flying at the pace that we saw in the drives from Cup cars, but these first times coming in. Now, John Meisnick here is going to be a very interesting car to focus on. They look to make that push over the line because they are hoping to get right up there with those early laps, and there's the 1:01 for the run. Eli Robinson, then over the time Rodrigo Mies goes second. Caleb Hyde's currently quickest at the moment for Eclipse Simsport Quartet, 67. DPR second through Ryan Jones, another driver who is no stranger to the commentary box as well. Warboy's there passing one car, just allowing that space there on the left-hand side for WKMP and hoping for a good time with the first effort that's going to cross over. Now, not necessarily all about then at this moment, David, finding the fastest time. We've got a car actually off then at turn 2, that is waiting to get back going. That's Aaron Gilbert and ANZ Motorsport, so that's one of the Henry James Racing cars that found itself off the road as Brock Gilchrist then now is going to gear up for a lap. But Aaron Gilbert's got the nickname of Fish, and unfortunately, Fish has found himself not doing the one thing he's supposed to do in the rain, which is swimming. Yeah,
and remember, I feel like the rain increases the likelihood of a red flag. It's possible, not something we saw out of Porsche Cup qualifying. Only 13 cars on track, mainly in the dry. They didn't encounter particularly many problems. We go to the Logitech replay here. This is coming up towards Griffins, and it's rear locking very early in that slippery part of the racetrack, gently backwards into the wall. Miracle of miracles that the rear wing stays on, but it's 40 cars out there in very difficult conditions. The chance of some interruption to the qualifying feels, dare I say, inevitable in this 60 minutes?
I would say that there is a more than 0% chance and a less than 100% chance that there is going to be a safety car or a Logitech G safety car out there overall in this one. Here is Stefan McCartey then over towards the line. Potter goes second. Then is that effort on a 220.1, and McCartey 8th only, but then you're seeing drivers like Byron Pierce, for example, for Eclipse LDP X56 is going to be fastest out there at the moment. Brenton Hobson, Hobo 88, looking for good lap time out there. Falcon Sim Racing Team and Damon Woods, they go top then with their time. That University great team doing well. Here's Sean Campbell out there in the Orbit Drop Bear McLaren. Now this was the car that was fastest in pre-qualifying then for this, and critically only 9th fastest with that attempt. Dennis Gattering also hoping for a good effort and attempt, David, but critically as you look around, it's also going to work in this race time very much like the dry. It's going to take a couple laps for this tyre to get itself into a window. You don't need to be fastest, just got to be top 15.
Got to get your tyres into the window, but you've got to try to find some kind of a window on track, and Damon Woods was flying in the first sector, and then good luck trying to improve the lap from here. No one is going to owe you anything, and in qualifying, making a pass and still setting a good lap, very, very difficult. The sun's starting to come out at the top of the mountain. We're past the peak of the rain intensity, and that's in the wall, just 2 cars in front of us of the provisional pole sitter.
Yeah, so that was Matt Thompson there for Team OCE, and then William Morgan. Now we've got a car very slow up the top, trying to let people through down the hill, and it's the One Performance cars there that were staying off the road and trying to give themselves space. Now that is important to know, that you've got 39 cars, 40 cars out there here, David, trying to find some space in the rain. Very difficult, so you're trying to find a spot in the traffic to go through effectively. If you put them all equidistant apart, you'd have about, I don't know, maybe about 2 seconds per car to try and give yourself as much room, maybe 3. So it's not much, but you can find that you get pockets there. You get trains of 4, 5, 6 go through, and then it'll be very tough to go and get by. And you did actually note something to us in production chat for us, David, and that is that the intensity of the rain, Category 2 is Category 1, and one of the Porsches you've got to take the engine off, I think it's the 705, Australian Wide Racing Yellow, it's smoking.
And you can't smoke in the pit lane. Damage. Oh, yeah, big damage there as the times continue to tumble. Caleb Hyde's just jumped up into 4th, I saw.
Just a heads up, boys, I've just been monitoring the session, just listening in. I've got crew chief running in the background. He just said it's drying up. It is drying up. And I was keeping an eye on that rain band. It's green intensity to this point in the session. It's now gone light blue intensity. Expected to be light blue intensity to the end of the session. So times will improve in the back half of the session. realistically, talking about that OPR car and then limp back to pit lane, they want to keep their session active. Why is that critical? I just said it's going to dry up. You just got to survive through this next period of the race.
Perfect, thank you, Scott. And they can see, at the top of McPhillamy. And that's a case of Rule 1, crashing into his own teammate. We saw them slow, trying to work on back down the hill, the one performance cars. We completely missed that as it went through and around. So that shows you how tough these conditions are. Luke Fallon then in the Player 1 Sim Gear car out there. They've been given a wild card entry into this one. They're 16. And there is Aaron Gilbert then trying to push to the line and get that second lap down in on the board. Campbell Adams then happy in 34th, but would love to be a lot higher up in the order, and we were keeping an eye out on that rain. So if it does lighten up like it is now, David, they're going to sit down and say, well, next 15, 30 minutes, it's for the taking.
There's so much time left in this session. 48 minutes of everyone out there pounding around. It doesn't look like the rain will stop, but that lightest amount of rain is nothing in the afternoon with this many cars out there taking every line, throwing the spray up. Sam Blacklock in the BMW alongside one of the Evolution cars.
Yeah, and really trying to push now in the 962, the 862. There is Sam Blacklock there. It seems like I need to go to Specsavers. But he's doing a very good job. That is John Pleisnick, who is there behind, who looked very fast in practice going into this race. That beautiful Logitech G livery that is there for the team. And Blacklock then a 221.5. Crossing the line then and getting that time settled on in for Orbit Mars. They're currently 26th on a 220.4 at the moment. So big disparity out there right now. And when we talk about disparity on times, Scott, I know you're here with us, and I'm going to keep you around as we watch Luis Paolo go on, then looking to put a time down in on board. Gaps are huge right now. We're talking about 8 tenths of difference between first and second right now.
Yeah, that time's actually quite... I was just thinking, you just said a 220, and I just went, that's close. That's really, really close to a crossover time. Someone's going to risk it. If this rain keeps to less than as it is at the moment, someone's going to have to go. Because if you can just put your best time on the board right now, the tricky part is getting those tyres up to temperature. It could take 10 laps to get those tyres up to temperature in these conditions if you can hang on to it. But there will be a gain, and the gain is in straight line speed. That's where the big gain is. That's what's going to be the gain tomorrow as well. So for somebody who's down the back end of the field, this is your opportunity to risk it. You've got an hour qualifying session. You've put your consistent laps together. Why not throw a pair of slicks on the dash? Particularly in the last 10 minutes of that session. You might actually see that.
How's this low drag set up?
That is very low drag for Riley Preston there, and it's so low drag they even forgot to put the wing on it, so they're going to have to come back down into pits here, David, get a brand new wing on and get them back out again. That's going to be really tough, and they've done this early here. This looks like another one that's gone wrong at Quarry Corner. Up the hill on the braking zone, make sure you hit your line, and the back just not having enough grip on the rear. And I even argue there that Mustang's got a much better built rear wing that we saw with Aaron Gilbert earlier on, because that brushed in even less and the wing just went, nope, I must go, my planet needs me.
Yeah, the Mustang wing stayed on and the McLaren lost 2 wings somehow to that impact. So that's 2 points for the Mustangs. Incredibly sturdy and interestingly angled wing mounts. Rain intensity has come down from a peak of 14 to 7% right now.
That missing wing isn't Ferrari spec, is it? We need to check that. Is that allowed in this series?
Well, it did rotate 180
upside down when we saw it. Oh, brilliant. Sean Campbell then in second position for Orbit, Drop Bear, Jupiter. And here's a little look at the wheelwork then as he goes through past the hotel on the right-hand side and straight down into pit lane. Then to get himself then a brand new set to go and work with. 8/10 off the pace. So currently Falcon Sim Racing, Orbit Drop Bear Jupiter, and Eclipse Sim Sport are your top 10. That's the Bowler Media Eclipse Sim Sport car. It's Mosaic Motorsports number 10 here, the 37 that we are focusing on at the moment. They are also driving themselves down into pit lane. Now, here's going to be the critical factor of these drivers as they look to set themselves up. You want to be top 15 out there, and at the moment that mark is currently set by Vermilion Esports at the moment. Here's Brett Loxton looking for his attempt too, and he's got his HJR team there just behind trying to work. So for the Jinx Shifters and then ANZ Motorsport, they're going to be looking at getting themselves into a position where maybe they want to run here, Scott, when there are less drivers out there on the track, just so that they have the ability to go out there and try something maybe a little bit more different, get themselves the space and the confidence to put the lap together. David, I'll chuck it to you.
I'm not currently stuffing myself with air fried chicken. I'm here keeping an eye on the weather, who's doing what with their tyres, who's going to be the first brave soul to think we've reached crossover on this drying track. I put to you that you probably need to get underneath about a 215 on the wet tyres before you thought, all right, let's give slicks a go.
So car 68 here, sorry, we just got a little look at this, and this is from the rear as we take a look. That's trying to find the car through the spray, and this is where Whitey's pies come to play. How close are you going to get? Boom. Trying to go on through, a nice little push that goes on by, and if you have a little push like that, that's going to invalidate 2 lap times as you go on through. That car there had some brilliant colours there, looked very similar, even though there was the leopard print on it in the white there, David, to a silk cut Jaguar.
Yeah, there's some good throwbacks there. There's a bit going on as well with the Jinx Shifters Mustang as well. That it's a really nice sort of throwback to some good sports car colours. And yeah, we'll take a look at Sapstead right now in the Porsche 911 GT3 R XJR14.
Yeah, so this is where you look at William Sapstead, try and understand, okay, going to come down to the pits, get another set of wets on and try and go for it again. 42.5 minutes remaining here in qualifying before the Sud Speed Shootout is going to set itself up. But right now, it's about who dares manage with this lane. Osman also going to be jumping in. We seem to be catching them all into the pits. Daniel Poulton out there for One Performance Racing. It's the brakes and really has to be committed into this final section. Got the pass on Brett Loxton there, heading to the line. A 220.6 for his troubles. Now that's good enough then to be 17th place with that effort. Good work for One Performance. They'll be happy with that. Jake Edwards, though, will be just a little bit further forward in the number 47, and that is a 220.0. So that will jump them up a good half dozen places to go to 8th place. So we're really seeing those places. Campbell Adams to 14th then for Team Max Boost.
Yep, seeing teams improve there. Looking at where they were on their tyres as well, how long it's taken to bring the wet sets in. Second lap seems to be a good place. Here's one of the Lamborghinis. There is a puddle still in a couple of places around this racetrack. The spray that you're seeing suggests slick tyres wouldn't work, but then the puddles that they hit really make this track look like it's still a good 15 to 20 minutes away from anyone thinking it's crossover.
Well, I turn around and say you need a track very lightly wet to go and get crossover on a track that is lightly wet. So it's just a little bit too wet for liking out there. I've just seen Jake Edwards slam it into the wall actually over the top of the mountain. As we note Rodrigo Mies, who is doing or needs to do a good job out there. He's on the outside. Well, he's actually in P6, sorry, so he'd love to be a little bit higher than that, but he is a driver who is world class out there. Lewis Greathead on the bubble on the outside looking in right now. 13 thousandths only the difference between in and out.
yeah, you throw 40 darts at the wall, 15 and 16 are going to be damn close to each other, and there's so many cars on the outside that we recognize the names and the teams and the drivers, and we go, well, if they got it all together with no traffic in the right place at the right time, they could pull a time to get into that top 15. What you don't want to be doing is that, which is again finding one of those puddles where they can form. There's no way to get away from the racing line or find a dry part of the racetrack there through metal grate. You've just got to take the geometrically best line and deal with it.
I'm taking a look at Aaron Gilbert's car. It's also looking very damaged. He's gone in to the wall at the Forest Elbows there, blinking about like nobody's business is Jackson Raihana then going over towards the line. Marcus Watson, 11th position right now, and trying to get the Project 36 endurance car. A bit of Roman numeraling as they go on by, and it would help because they are car number 36, so good effort for them, but they'll be gearing up for this lap then and saying this is going to be one that's a little bit easier for it at the moment. 33rd position overall is the class. Now here is Aaron Gilbert at the moment. Out there, oh, it switches just as he tries to lift off of it there into the wall, and he's lucky he's not caught anyone else with it.
Now he's dented the rear wing element, but it stayed on. But he went backwards into the tyres there, and it's done a whole chunk of damage, as well as spinning around, grazing the concrete. He ought to be able to get out of that one once the gap emerged. Luis Paulo Gallon also had an incident coming down through the dipper, so they're all... Basically, everyone has set a time. Yes, everyone has set a time. So now you're looking to improve on your time, and the only way to do that is to be more committed than you were on the lap before.
And is there an element of those who feel like they're safe, as this is Luis Paulo Gallon here running into a slide, and at that point you're just hoping that it's going to stop and there isn't going to be too much more that comes along from it. When you get to that situation then where you're just trying to improve, that's going to be very tough then as they go through. 2:21 there from Blake Warboy, so that one not quite going to line up as necessary there with our timing. But when you get to improving, David, how critical is it to find that time? And will those cars that are currently inside that top 5, will they be maybe a little bit more relaxed knowing that they currently still have over a second on their safety margin?
Well, if you're inside the top 15, or as you say, the top 10 or the top 5, I think you're praying that the track doesn't change, because too much track evolution really puts you in the hot seat. And if there is drastic track evolution, then it no longer becomes about how quick is your theoretical best lap. It becomes about being in the right place at the right time when the lap times begin to tumble, to make sure you make it into that top 15. So right now, you're looking at the wet track feeling relatively comfortable, but you're looking at the radar that it's going to completely stop raining in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And then you go, well, hang on, 20 minutes at the tail end of this session with no rain and 40 cars out there trying to improve. I think that the track state could move very quickly in the back half of this GT3 qualifying session.
I'm not sure about that. I'd love to get the weather graphic open and see whether we can catch this properly, because as they go through, that's just giving you an indication of the weather level. So that radar is moving to create this pocket, but I'm a little bit worried that pocket there that you're seeing, David, is going to move up and miss the circuit entirely.
The very English way of looking at it. I look at it like it's going to be a beautiful day.
Well, two different sides of the hemisphere, two different viewpoints on the weather.
I'm positive. I believe that we'll be, in singlets and putting together Bunnings snags in 15 minutes time, thinking about slick tyres.
This is Bathurst. It's stone cold up there. If the sun comes out, they jump out of their jumpers. They're in their singlets.
Yep, very true there, Scott. And you look around at it, I would prefer to be a little bit more, I would be generally surprised rather than optimistically disappointed, I guess is the way to look at it. Dennis Gatterick up to 4th then. Brilliant work for Pulse Melbourne Lexus Blueprint by Lesco SSR. They'll be very happy. Daniel Poulton has been putting in the laps. He's been doing a very good job with them. No improvement that time, but in 12th place and will be feeling comfortable. Scott, critically out there as they're heading towards halfway now in qualifying. Goodness my, doesn't time fly. You're looking around and seeing who's going to have the confidence to step up, and there is pace there for these drivers. Eli Donaldson at 2:23, so he's going to have to gear up for another attempt. I'm looking around at it and thinking there is chances that maybe you're needing to be in the 2:19s to make yourself into the Super Bowl showdown.
Yeah, who hasn't stuck that lap together yet? You know, that's really, really important. Who actually has not put the lap together? Riley Preston's at the moment, car 7. This is one of the cars over the last couple of years that's been right there and right at the forefront of this motor race and been able to potentially have a win. At times it's been fully sucked away from them. It didn't look like he improved there. But I'm just looking at that weather graphic as well. There's 2 shades of blue. We're in a lighter blue shade. This track could still evolve. Oh, that's the Lamborghini in the Ferrari spec wing again. Somebody get on the phone to that car and let them know that you can't cross-register wings from manufacturers.
So, well, this is going to be troublesome. Brenton Hobson's just moved up into the top 15, so they're now on the bubble here as they've gone in. We're just about to try and load up a Logitech G replay to see exactly how that has gone about. There's Blake Warboys, who could definitely get himself into the top 15. Jackson Raihana has pulled the car to 9. So this is heading up to the Griffin's Mount here, going through towards turn 5. So he's going to rush on through, goes through. Oh, and the back steps out, David. Now he's got to try and avoid it, and the wing's still there. So I wonder whether he's done it on the flick spin round, trying to get out of trouble.
Well, he might be about to put himself into trouble. We've sort of already read the final chapter of this story, and now we've gone back to the start to see exactly how they got there. And no, flick spin, no, flick spin, no. And normally there's an ambulance up there on race weekends in that access road.
Oh, this is agonising. And
this is how many
here as well.
How many turns I think it would take to get the Lamborghini into the car park.
Yeah, and that steering wheel's going to feel so heavy, and yet we've lost it there on that tiny tag there behind. Scott, one thing drivers tend to forget when they go into moments like that, the car spun around. If they want the car to spin around quick, they've got to turn the traction control off. Yeah,
traction control toggle, but again, it depends what you've got optioned to set up on your steering wheel, but you're 100% right. The tricky thing is, in these conditions, if you just jam the clutch, you probably could get the car to come around nice and quickly just because there's that little grip available, even if you just turn the traction control down manually for those few moments. But you're right, you just need access to that lack of assistance for a few moments to get that car out of there. So, tricky, but he's out of there in the end.
4th place for Rodrigo Means for Momentum Racing. You normally see him racing out there for one of the big teams out there. Of course, officially forward Rodrigo Means has Slade Osman, then 33rd at the moment in class for the 371. Therefore, Simline Race Service, little down the order, but hoping to try and get up there. That is an improvement, but it is an improvement of only a couple of hundredths of a second, so won't encroach on the 3/10 gap to Pacific Esports Racing number 17 car. Jim Stoddart then seeing a car over on the right hand side. We haven't actually had the chance here, David, to talk balance of performance, and we don't often get to talk about this too much, but every car has had something applied to it on this balance of performance. It's really been curated.
Yes, each of them in some way shaped or molded for this event. Little tweaks to fuel tank size, weight and power are the parameters. Level it all up. As the heaviest part of that rain is gone, I'm seeing a lot of personal best sectors begin to appear. and the drivers get it together, you could set a time now that could put you into the top 15. And I think any car could do it.
Just getting word of race control over at the Forest. There's a car going the wrong way. It's Dylan Shepherd for One Performance Racing, who's there trying to find a sideline to get that going again, and has done. Raihana then in 10th position, and that was right behind the barriers there. So this is the Audi down the hill, and really fine. Oh, just too narrow there. And then what you often get to see with a car with such a short wheelbase there, Scott, is that it's prone to the rear swapping round.
That's one of the benefits of the Audi, though, is its ability to just sort of, you know, get around corners and rotate quite quickly, but it'll suffer in terms of traction. Is generally, you know, that longer wheelbase, you'll have a lot more traction in the car. So that's something that you're tending to go towards, looking for stability. The tricky part about that is if you have a slight wobble in the rain and the rear starts to get away from you, that means the axis spins a lot quicker too. So it's catch-22. Its best attribute becomes its worst attribute at times, and that's also why the Audi's just been a little bit unloved in favour of the Lamborghini. It's a fraction longer and a little bit more stable, a little bit better rotation, and it brings its tire. The Lamborghini's big benefit at the moment, brings those tyres in really, really quickly, and the grip's ready there and ready to go. Can suffer on the long run, though.
Well, I'll tell you what, that Lamborghini has the same engine as that Audi, so they'll sit down and they'll say, maybe Blake War Boys in the top 10 now, and we'll be very happy for WKMP, Synergy Sim Racing and Brenton Hobson into the top 5. And here's a driver who should be up in that top 15 and is only just, David, Felipe Cabrera Loyola, a driver with immense quality at the highest level.
Yeah, and the track is there to improve on as well. We're at a 2% rain intensity. It looks a bit dramatic on the cameras, but it is really, really light, spitting rain. There's lots of cars out there. They're all finding little improvements as they go. Glenn Riddell is giving himself some space there, I think. We are seeing the timing move. 118, Player One Racing goes into the top 15 as they slot into 10th.
That's huge for them. They're in on a wild card, and it's not often that you get to hear that, Scott, that a team on a wild card is going to be there. Sam Blacklock here, 7th for Orbit Drop there, looking to try and jump up. Jackson Raihana up to 5th. I think this circuit's in a position where everyone's finding change now.
Yeah, you're seeing everyone challenging for that top 15. Almost every second car that comes over the line resets the order. Reese Wakefield goes in there. Ryan Jones is now the driver in the hot seat, the last driver in that top 15 as the times begin to tumble. Look at Dennis Gaderick. I don't think that's an improvement. Right now, what you need is something underneath a 220 to make it into the top 15. The cut line sits at a 219.977. Paulo Gallen's getting the elbows out in the final corner there.
Well, they've got to defend their lap, and so you don't want anyone cutting you up through the final stages of it as Brenton Hobson goes to 4th. I'm surprised to see John Peisnick so far back right now here for the Evolution Racing team. 221.9 only, and I wonder whether dry pace and wet pace are two very different things to be dealing with at the moment. Matt Thompson then in the team OCE, BMW pulling this one over to one side, so too Blake War Boys. 26 minutes left here in qualifying, and suddenly you're looking around, it's already a 219.7 as your mark to try and get 219.9 by Ryan Jones. I'm thinking now you need to be in the 219.5s is where the next place is going to be. Josh Houghton, 18th only, so he's another car for Vermilion that's on the wrong side of this one, needing to jump on in. Eddie Bestwick then for the Cortez, very fast on his days. Tied on time with William Sapstead at the moment. That's a 219.8, still good enough to go through, but still stuck in 11th, David.
Yeah, and it's, again, still all moving quickly. They seem to be finding a little bit more track out there, a little bit more space and clean air than they had at the very beginning of the session. But I'm still seeing that almost everyone's out there. And Riddell jumps to 6th. William Sapstead goes into 2nd. Oh, just misses out on the top 15 here as Eli Donaldson completes that lap. So every second car we are seeing complete a lap is going quicker than they have before.
I will say that that pocket has in fact missed the circuit, so they are still dealing with these light, wet conditions that are out there at this point. Campbell Adams, just misses out as well. He's short by 1/4 of a second. Is this going to be a case, Scott, of last car out there is going to jump himself into the top 15?
Well, there's a couple of extras. So what's happening is sort of in the wind and the rain is coming from the southeast at the moment, and it's heading towards that northwest of the track. So in terms of where that's actually going to hit, that dryness is actually going to hit Forest Elbow first, and then drift from Forest Elbow basically towards Griffin's Bend. That'll get the viewers at home a little bit more knowledge about where it's coming from. So at the moment, it's still very, very wet. I was just keeping an eye on. I did see Sean Campbell was in the pits for a long. Actually, he's still in there at this point in time. So I think he might have walked away for a little bit of a moment, reset. Maybe they're thinking about some tinkering and some changes to that car, or Daniel Portman goes to P8. They might be considering the dry tyres, and they're just watching what's going on and going, is it improving? The problem with that is it's risky. We just talked about this. We think this track might be improving. If that's the case, you need to be on the track. So that's the challenge they're sort of faced with.
But I turn around and look at, yes, it is improving. The bigger worry is that the difference between being 5th, David, and being 20th is 0.6 of a second right now.
Yeah, and if you want proof of the track improving, Falcon Sim Racing team have just gone even quicker at the top of this field. They sit a whole second clear right now. I think everyone else will be able to chip away at that on an improving track. But yeah, it's just all about being on the track at the right time towards the end of this session to make sure you get into that top 15 to then go forward into the speed superpole.
Yeah, Pulse now with the tuning Lexus Melbourne car up there at the moment. Vermillion and Eli Donaldson up to 8th place. Will certainly be happy with that. Dean Mackay crossing the line stays 23rd. Suddenly it is Orbit Mars who are on the bubble almost, where DPR sit Ryan Jones. That's one car in between for Sam Blacklock. Dennis Gaterick then in the way. Ryan Jones going to come down into the pits for DPR, but this is suddenly becoming a very stressful field. There are drivers out there like Byron Pierce, for example, that I would look at for eclipsing LTD, who should be in that top 15, who has been for the longest time. Marcus Watson as well, who have suddenly fallen out of that range. And yes, slow car.
Yeah, so it's 12th place at the moment, and I think it was Campbell Adams where I had a look. No, it's Reese Wakefield. So I actually just seen 3 separate cars go around across the top. It's Reese Wakefield, so there's going to be something wrong in the rear end of this car, I think. Yeah, just look at the car crabbing. He's looking for anywhere he possibly can to get away.
With the elbow, I think he's gone and done it first and foremost here. So he's trying to bring it back home without invoking a red flag for it out there. So again, over the top of the hill, and again, snapping around, trying to find not a heavy hit, but when you hit it square on into the tyre bundle there, that's going to have broken some of the linkage back there on the rear, and so he is desperately trying to drag this home. You can see it there in the bottom right, trying to get this one back. This is pretty much desperation stuff at the moment to try and bring that back, and the emphasis of, if you have to tow the car, your session is done. That's what they're looking at here. If I can get it to pits, David, I can get a brand new car.
And with an improving track and you're sitting in 12th position, you absolutely know that that time probably won't get you into speed superpole. You want to be able to get back out there. You've also got to not impede anyone as you're going around here, and watch, they get dropped down to 13th place on an ever improving track. Eli Donaldson, who's 9th, is going to go through. There's Wick. Purple sector on the lap that he has just completed. Donaldson here. Couple of PBs, that goes quicker.
Yeah, 2:10. Rodrigo Meese has got the gap down to Damon Woods to half a second out there between Momentum and Falcon, and Felipe Cabrera here for the other one of the Momentum cars down in 25th position, a 2:20.0 again for him. He's not gelling with these wetter conditions right now. Dennis Gatterick on the bubble's got a wonderful tow there from one of the Orbit drop bear cars in front. And Gatterick now is going to make this push through the line on an 18.8. And that is a huge improvement there, as up to 5th goes Pulse Melbourne Lexus Blueprint by Alesco SSR there, Scott.
Yeah, good lap time, and that's what we said. That track is improving a little bit. Samiz has gone back to the pointy end of the field as well, and now he'll dive on a pit lane. So looking to try and find some time. Last set of fresh tyres, no, you think they're going to keep cycling into about 5 laps, get some life out of those tyres back in for fuel. There'll be enough time for 2 more cycles in the tyre at this point in time. If you're in pit lane now, you're just starting another run plan. Slade, what's he got? It's worthwhile. We've got an opportunity in an hour-long session at the moment, as we see a few cars on pit lane. You need to take a ride on board this place in the wet, because it's so challenging. And the thing that you can see as we go for 2 minutes and 17 seconds worth of onboard action is look for the shiny stuff. You can't afford to touch that anywhere across the lap. That's a lack of grip. That's a puddle on the left-hand side. That's not shiny for what I was just mentioning. Now there's one on the right-hand side. You settle in, you bolt yourself in. If you haven't tightened those belts, you'll take another yank on them as you climb up Mountain Straight. Underneath the Petters Bridge, look for the slippery stuff on the left-hand side and the right. There's a drying line just here, just in from the left-hand edge of the road. Break it, get it back to 2nd or 3rd gear depending upon your manufacturer. Make sure you're next to where the rubbered in line is. Carry that momentum off the Cribbins bend. You'll run it up to the cutting. This is probably the trickiest place on a wet track, because you can't touch the white line on the right. You want to go the long way round, but there's a rubbered in line there. It is balance and bravery with the cutting. Power it out if you can. Keep the rear end underneath you. Consistency and ability to turn it in underneath that tree. Then you've got to think about the grate. Where am I going to place the car? Can't touch the white line. Can't touch the rubber. Up against the fence out here. If you thought this was manic, now comes the scariest puddle in Australian sim racing. Look at where that dry line is. You can see it now, where the water's been moved off the line. The fall down, and it's bravery from Horton as he'll wrestle the car the whole way down the hill. Again, you got to touch the rubber. It's street circuit lines. Work the hand. This is what a Porsche is good at. It's these conditions right here. You want to be on the left to pull the car up. You want to be on the right or the middle of the road through the middle of the corner to get the thing to turn and traction. Now you can take a break. What I want to look at is down the middle down here. Look how much of the road that you can actually use. The right-hand side's dry. You want to drive the whole track length down here on the middle in the dry, on the right-hand side in the heavy wet, and switching back to the middle. Again, track where you can place the car without sticking it in a puddle, without sticking it in rubber. Look at the braking down here. It's dried up enough that there's a dry line. You've got to be really, really accurate with this car at the chase. Turn it back. Don't touch a puddle on the right. Don't touch a puddle on the left. Little bit of curb. That's bravery. That's confidence from Horton. Pulls it up at the final corner. Dodge the puddles on the left. Dodge the puddles on the right. And you've put a lap together around the mountain in a GT3 in the rain. How about that, boys?
That's great. He's a tenth shy, but that is just giving you a wonderful insight of what makes this circuit go. Now, Falcon Sim Racing team here would absolutely love to give themselves more margin up there at the top. There was a moment, there was a car stopped right at the top of the skyline, and it was, again, one of the cars. I think it wasn't Daniel Poulter, but it would have been the second one of them then that was going through, that was stopped at the top and had a lot of trouble getting turned around in the right way. Gave a big scare then to Daniel Poulter. Now, Rodrigo Mies here is then, we'll get a look here, it's the McLaren then, so this would have been the one that would have got fastest overall, over the top. And David, look at this then as you go through, very tough, catches that puddle, and then some bang.
And then the next car does similar, so there were a few of them around here. And then evasive action means you've got to go water skiing as well. That door nearly closed. The Blacklock has gone out into the grass there to try to get out of the way. The sun breaking through here, still sprinkling rain, and every time we've looked across the top of the mountain, there's still a lot of water on the track. Damon Woods has gone purple through the first sector.
He has, and he's done very well. And I note now, Matt Thompson up into 14th position. So he finds the margin. Kieran Potter down here in 25th place. Felipe Cabrera was just short of the bubble by 100th. It's now 200th of a second. We'll take a little look and see whether it's going to wake up. That's a 19.784. That's going to be good enough to potentially jump up the order there. Ryan Jones then hoping for something out there, but right now it's going to be a case of, well, can I get the car back into that top 15? Here's another look at 2:19.3. Well, that will certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons. He's in by 2,000, Scott.
How's that for sticking it right on the bubble? But if this session keeps improving, that won't be the marker. Tricky thing again, I'm just seeing another couple of cars actually on cycles at the moment. So we're just starting to see these cars come out of the lane.
We are. So this is where you get cars that are on cycle, cars that are not, and Hayden Veld is stopped at the top of the mountain at this moment with heavy damage to the rear of his car. So that is for him, the car in 7th position, just discarding some of the damage as Damon Woods goes then to a 17.4. He is desperately trying to get this car back. Another one that's going to have to limp home. That Ferrari is very much there, David, in Ferrari spec.
Yeah, the rear-engine Ferrari went hard into the wall backwards, and I think he's lucky to have any drive. We'll see if that thing makes it the whole way around. He's got a bit too much curb at McPhillamy, I think. It's not the puddle on the exit, then it rolls backwards with a heavy rear impact. It does the suspension, it does the rear clip. He's lucky it hasn't taken out the gearbox or the engine, and that car is still moving. And we remain green flag conditions.
There's a car out at the dipper. The car out at the dipper, and I just saw Aaron Gilbert around in a Mustang across the top as well.
Well, they're all struggling, and it shows how much they're pushing. It's Eli Donaldson of Vermilion Esports who's around at the dipper, and you're seeing it's 2 or 3 different cars that are trying to get there. Look at him, he's trying to reverse on something. Now, this is very dangerous there. I think he's just trying to get sight line here of the cars that are coming down the hill, so he knows he can flick spin the car around here, is Eli, and if he can't get it going, they might have to red flag it.
There's no hole. There's no hole in the traffic for a long, long time. There's about 30, 45 seconds here that there's actually no hole in traffic. There is a hole coming, and it's just ahead of the 6th place car at the moment, which is Sean Campbell. That's sort of where the gap is at the moment, but it's a long, long, long wait. He's just been told to wait about 15 seconds. They're going to try and get him out of there. They're going to try and keep his session alive.
Yeah, well, that's very good heads-up race controlling there, because you know that you've got to try and find the gap, and you're not necessarily going to have much help. Ryan Jones up to 10th in the middle of all of that. Then, so he's managed to get himself up. Glenn Riddell currently the bubble, but it's really heads up there, David, isn't it? That a race controller's got to try and get every car out there and running, and Eli has now got himself the turnaround. He's got the flick spin. Hayden Veld has made his way back to pits. That's brilliantly done.
Yeah, well done by the officials, well done by the drivers. Great passion, great patience, and passion for the sport as well.
It's brilliant. David Woods then coming to the line 2:19.3. So we continue on 11:52 out there. Eddie Bestwick's going to come down in. This, you feel, is the final cycle for him. Daniel Poulton then really trying to drag that Corvette through on the outside looking in, has constantly been jumping up. Jake Edwards now up to 5th then with a 10. Brilliant stuff. Rodrigo Mees can't quite improve then on effort. So now as they sit here, I look at John Pizik where they are and where you've got to go and get there. There was a lot of damage there for, I believe, Jackson Raihana coming down in for Summit Point. Not very nice at the moment for his car that's down in pit lane. This is now the scramble here right now, David.
Yeah, we're getting cars picking up a lot of damage, but none of them getting terminal damage. All of them still able to move along and, you know, get a new front bumper, get a new rear wing. And so the track stays green. It keeps everyone rotating at speed. It keeps the track slowly improving on this incredibly light spitting rain. If there was no cars out there, it'd be getting wetter, but they're just moving enough water to keep the track quick, and no one is going to feel safe unless they're in about the top 5.
That's a huge amount of crabbing there for Josh Hope, trying to get himself down onto pit lane. So there's another car that finds itself wrong place, wrong side, over the line, but again short is Kieran Potter in the Lamborghini. So stays stuck in around 19th. Glenn Riddell now, who is on the outside of this one, trying to get the Pulse Tuning Lexus Melbourne car into the top 15 by Project 36 Endurance. He's still not there, a 19.4. Got right now the time is a 19.1, and that's a lot more helpful for Ryan Jones. He gives himself room to breathe with an 18.6 to go and get in. The difference between in and out, Scott, is 1,000th of a second with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, what a line. What a wet qualifying session. Where was that on the bingo card? I don't think any of us had that one down at any point in time. And we've seen light improvements to everything. We've seen the track get better. We've seen the track get worse. I just had another look at the radar. We're not getting dry conditions whatsoever. That's not coming. It is going to keep at least just pitter-pattering to the end of the session. So it'll be on wets for certain. That you can lock in now to the end of the session as that's continued to change behind where we're sitting. But think about this. 10 minutes. It takes you about that to get the tyres in, get them up to temperature, and get a fast lap in. So this is it. If you're rolling out of pit lane, this is your final roll of the dice. If you're out of pit lane and you may be a half lap short on fuel, you might have a go at saving that extra lap. You might try and bring the tyres in. Try and get yourself there. So the thing is now, buckle in, belts tighten, last roll of the dice. 60 minutes worth of qualifying, we've got 9 to go.
Oh. We got 2 cars off down in the S's right now. One's Sam Blacklock, the other one's Ryan Jones, who's just backed it in. Rear wing comes off there of the Porsche, but Sam is stuck there and waiting for the opportunity then to go on through. And it looks like at the moment, look at this from this camera angle, completely unsighted.
I bet the spectators can't even see him either. Sam Blacklock has a whole heap of damage on that car. Ryan Jones has gone away. This could be a red flag.
Yeah, this is tough. Sam Blacklock's got to take the tow here. Can't get it out of the barriers. It's in a really unsafe position. Red flag is called. And now, at the most critical time, they're not going to be able to set any laps. They're all going to have to come in. Glenn Riddell's lap here, I'm not sure is going to count. They might have to take this one off the board, even if it's quicker here in 17th. He doesn't improve. He does improve to 14th. That's critical. He's going to get that white, surely.
I don't know. We've never had that happen before. Now the difference is, real world, as soon as that red flag pops up, you are to safely transit back to the pit lane. We are not the real world. We can tow cars back to pit lane. They'll look at that. They will be aware of that for sure. The red flag was definitely called. And the thing about red flags is you've got to, the session is neutralized. He's affected the board there. He has absolutely affected the board there, and it's critical to superpole. I reckon you've got to take him out. I reckon Reece Wakefield is now the bubble driver in 16.
I think so as well. So it will now depend on what race control looks at. There's 4 drivers there, 4 people there. Peter Baxter, Dan Stevens, Simon Black, and Mike Korolev, who will have a look. We'll take an eye here with Sam Blacklock. And David, doesn't it make sense? We've got Scott Rankin in here with us, and it's an orbit drop there car that causes us the trouble.
So again, at McPhillamy Park, the wet on the inside line, that's heavy damage and crabbing already from Sam Blacklock. So that car is in a bad shape from the impact. He's trying to get it going, and it's somewhere between here and the dipper. He ends up potentially blocking the racing line, and then we saw damage to the DPR car from Ryan Jones. But I mean, that thing was already sickening.
It is, and so it's a long wait to make sure that this car can get itself around in a safe and secure environment there. Damaging to the suspension there, it'll all be caved in, and it'll be really tough to try and get this back. Manages to get it reversed down the hill in towards that little runoff area that you get at Skyline, so that's the safe part to turn the car around. And I think the moment he realizes this thing's not drivable, he'll have a little look at trying to drive it forward down the hill. That's going to be where the moment comes, where the circuit goes in. Look, he's already backing it in and fronting it into the wall there, just in a desperation to get it turned around, Scott. And then bang, there's the next hit, and he's just desperately trying to grab it. And look at it, there's no way you get that back.
No, and he's had to make that call. He's just had to abandon ship. And we've seen so many drivers try and get their cars back. It's just so bent on that right rear tire that he's got no car control whatsoever. And the problem is, as soon as you come over the rise, it loads the car completely and utterly different. Session's been released back to green flag just now. They just called it, and there was a bunch of cars down at the end of pit lane. They're going to try and have a go. They're going to have a go. I don't think you can get the tyres in and have a go in time. But these guys are masters of warming tyres up and getting them into the window. So if anyone can, keep an eye on Daniel.
Absolutely, and do keep a note that there should be an investigation going into Pulse Tuning Lexus Melbourne 164 car that set a time as the red flag was called. So keep a note on that to see whether that time will count going into session at the moment. The team in 14th position, if they improve, it won't matter in terms of what that does. If they don't improve, though, that's going to be important. Everyone, look at how desperate everyone's going to go through. So it's under investigation currently, we've got what's on the screen. But David, everyone right now is going to think it's going to be like a Black Friday sale deal at the moment. Everyone is lining up, ready to get what they can. They're going to overtake on the mountain to get track position. Look at this.
Well, these cars up front are trying to get around to make sure they get 2 more flying laps. If you're at the tail of this, I think you only get 1 more flying lap. But the very first cars, and they were the cars that were at the pit exit end of the lane that queued up waiting for the green flag, I think they can get around here, build that temperature. They'll get around to start a flying lap with more than 2 minutes 20 on the clock, and that should then allow them to begin a second flying lap. But I think only the first 5 to 10 cars here have that chance. And if that's where the magic is, if you can improve in that, that's why you do what you do.
Here's a driver on the outside looking in, Daniel Poulton, who got himself absolutely perfect. Then on the run out of pits. They were queuing up for well over, some drivers were, Scott, a minute and a half to get back out.
Yeah, get the fuel in the thing, because if you're on the outside, you're just going to throw it at the ball at the wall. You've just got to have a go. And that's what this is all about. It's, I'm not in that 15, I'm going to have a crack. If you're in the 15, you're laughing. You don't think that anyone's going to be able to improve. This is it. This is crunch time. This is nearly a top 10 shoot. This is basically the shootout right here for me, because this is what it's all about. You've got 2 laps. Show us what you're capable of.
It's not just you're trying to get in, you're just trying to get a chance to get in, is where everyone sits at the moment. This is to try and get to Speed Superpole out there at this moment. And Daniel Poulton is one of those drivers who will be eyeing this up. Brenton Hobson will be on the bubble. Behind him directly is Marino Morella for Eclipse Sport LDP X56 at the moment, who's a little further down in the 219s as they go. Brock Gilchrist there for momentum. Ryan Bettis back there for one performance. They're all trying to get their laps in through the cutting here, David, and taking a big wide line to try and get as much drive off the exit as you possibly can.
The rain has fractionally increased, and in that 5 minutes of the red flag when the cars weren't on the track, they weren't circulating, and the dry line has disappeared from sort of some of the places where it was across the top of the mountain. That's why you wanted that second flying lap. Everyone's going around and clearing it off, and this lap is not an improvement for anyone except maybe Kieran Potter. It's that next lap you're hoping for more temperature in the tyres and have cleared off a slightly drier line.
A minute 35 left on the clock. It's going to be close for some of these drivers at the back on whether they're going to get one or more. Daniel Poulton's Corvette here, throwing it down the hill, trying to get some temperature and trying to get in quickly. They know if it's not this one, it's the next one, and it's about who you've got to be around. So position critical. I think they're just trying to buy themselves the extra lap right now.
Yeah, push on, because the other thing about pushing is it puts a little bit more heat in the tyre as well, because you're going a little bit faster. I actually just went and had a look back. I saw in the background one of those shots, I saw a Porsche and a Chevy trying to have a go at each other across the top. That's track position. It's not about the lap they're on right now. It's they want free track position to have a go at the next one. This is fine. This is okay. He'll have time to rescue this, clear the slowdown, and start his lap. He's okay here. It's the next one. He doesn't get any opportunity on that next bite at the cherry.
Now, Potter, what will the sorting hat have for you? through the final corner and over towards the line. 33 seconds on the clock. A 2:18.7 is good enough for the Duds. They're finding these laps anyway. So this is critical. Riddell, with his magic lap that he did under conditions, is on the bubble officially. So Brenton Hobson now is on the outside looking in. Rodrigo meets it down. There's contact. Bang! Huge accident coming over towards the pits. That was massive. And that's what they've got to be afraid of. Jim Stoddart, they're unsighted going through. Checkered flags out in 5 seconds. It was Eddie Beswick who finds himself with damage. Checker is out on Marcus Watson. He won't find much more than that. Oh my goodness, David.
I know why some of those drivers were trying to build gaps in the final sector, but you can't be weaving on the racing line. Cars behind you are on laps that count. It's impeding is what it is.
Critical update, just came through from race control. Car 164, disobeying red flag, qual time removed, rear of the field, not 16th or wherever he was, removed, rear of the field. He starts 37th GT3 tomorrow.
Oh, that's massive. And so Brenton Hobson now is the bubbles for Synergy Sim Racing on a 2:19.016. So keep that time of note. There is a car there at the cutting that's not happy. That's Reese Wakefield, who would have been just on the outside looking in. He's in the fence and he can't do anything. Here's the look then from the Logitech G replay and exactly how this goes about. You're looking to try and build some tire temperature. There's a check-up, bang! Nowhere for Stoddart to go. Beswick then was trying to get himself set up, and there's not much that could be done except that. Now these final times are going to come in. We know Marcus Watson's done, so he won't be able to get into the speed shootout. It's about everybody else from this point onwards. Watch those times and who's got the safety margin and who's not out there. Marina Morella, currently in 24th, is going to be the first car that's going to see the line in that Ferrari. So now here's going to be the push. He's being hounded all the way by Kieran Potter for Proline Esports, who is in at the moment. And critically, Eclipse have found themselves just on the wrong side on a 19-1. Not good enough. Then as they now work through, Thompson can't find improvement. Neither can William Morgan out there. Campbell Adams just on the outside. In goes Jackson Raihana to get himself to 15th. And there's the margin that you need. Suddenly it's an 18-9. Zach Kerr to the line isn't going to get there. He's going to be shy. Maybe there's a chance for Hobson here, who's looking at an 18. He's getting sorted meters. Second, Hobson, 18-8. Steals it late on as he jumps over the line into 13th. Jackson Raihana is out by the slimmest margin of just a quarter of a tenth of a second, David.
Well, it was last car over the line type of stuff, seeing the Momentum Racing 78 improving late in the session, seeing that cut line for the top 15 to make it to Sud Speed Superpole tumbling. And in the end, that rear of grid is for a car that won't be in the top 15 anyway.
But it does set the precedent for those who go on. A wonderful qualifying then at the top for Falcon Sim Racing team. Damon Woods on top with Rodrigo Mies and William Sapstead second and third. It's going to be Momentum 7, 7, 8 in fourth then in that session for Felipe Cabrera, with Dennis Gatterick and Pulse Melbourne Blueprint then in that fifth position as they went through by Alesco SSR. Player One Racing on a wild card have jumped themselves in then to sixth position, with Eclipse Simsport Core Temp 7th and DPR Racing in 8th. It's then One Performance Racing 47 and Vermilion Esports rounding out the top 10 then on board. The 5 after that who are in are Proline Esports, Orbit Drop Bear Jupiter through Sean Campbell, Brenton Hobson there for Synergy Sim Racing late, leaving in Eclipse Simsport Bowler Media and Vermilion Esports 112. Blushes spared just short was Summit Flash Graphics then as they go through, as we'll get the rest of the field cycled on by. But we will take this moment in time here to have a very, very good chat out here overall with Chris Ruddle, who is here with us, of course, with the wonderful work that he does over at Sudspeed. Now, Chris, I just want to get an understanding here of Sudspeed, the reason why Sudspeed has come into existence, and how Sudspeed has now managed to plant itself within the market.
Evening, boys. I'm surprised any of you guys have a voice left after that last 5 minutes, but you do. It's pretty simple. So Richard and I got involved with got into some racing during COVID, like a lot of others did, and found it really hard to get sort of anything sent down this part of the world that didn't cost a complete fortune, or that was sort of too hot, or and bits and pieces like that. So that's where we sort of started the idea of sort of coming up with something ourselves, and obviously looked into a lot of research and bought a lot of competitions sort of products and bits and pieces, and looked at what was good and what we thought we could do better. And yeah, sort of 3 or 4 years on, it's turning into quite the little monster that we probably didn't expect straight away.
Well, that is wonderful to hear how it's really starting to really blow up in sort of that sort of sense. But in terms of the approach, I mean, you look at a lot of different companies out there who feel like they're going to be on top of the game. What's the approach really that you're seeing here with Sudspeed?
Our approach was more sort of themed at, motorsport sort of type, with the designs and bits and pieces like that. We're both sort of motorsport tragics. So stuff that just sort of appealed to the normal, sim racer, that was affordable for them. It wasn't going to cost them an arm and a leg, and sort of can get shipped pretty quickly, and, from reasonably close, so they weren't waiting, 10, 15 days for them to come from the other side of the world, sort of thing.
So in terms of that, then, for you targeting the Australian market, you're absolutely perfect in the position. So, gloves are gloves, for some would say. So what would make your product, in terms of how you've been going about it, what's different, or what would you say is unique about Sudspeed? Why should people go to Sudspeed rather than anywhere else?
I mean, obviously it's all very selective, but obviously we did a lot of research with very light material. Obviously it gets a lot hotter here than other parts of the world. The stitching on the outside, not inside, so better feel. The silicon on the grips. I mean, a lot of other companies, I think, use plastic for sort of cost cutting and bits and pieces. But so yeah, just trying to get as much of a high end product as we can produce that lasts a decent amount of time. So that's going to be people will get benefit from it, and obviously they're not having to buy them again every 3 months because they're wearing out, sort of thing. So
there's a quality of care then that comes into the
product. 100%, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So for Sudspeed now, obviously it's ballooned out massively in terms of what you're expecting it. What's planned now for 2026 and beyond? Starting, of course, with Sudspeed Superpole, which is just about ready to get itself underway.
Yes, this is obviously our second year sponsoring this, and it's pretty cool to see Player One involved, because they're a stock list of ours as well. So having Neil on board is pretty cool to see as well. Just sort of refining everything. Sort of every order we do, or every new design, the par may get a bit of a tweak, or bits and pieces like that. But we're also hoping to bring a few more clothes sort of in, whether that be t-shirts or hoodies or caps and bits and pieces like that. And there might be a sort of heritage motorsport themed series of gloves that are in the works at the moment that people need to look out for at some stage this year as well.
Absolutely fantastic. Chris, we'll give you the opportunity to go and enjoy the Sudspeed Superpole out here with us. Chris Ruddle there, who has joined us from Sudspeed. An absolute pleasure to have him along out there at the moment. Now, Scott, you just heard 2 cars get called back to pits here as we just get ourselves to the start of Sudspeed Superpole.
Yeah, I was just trying to track down the results from that previous session, just because I just wanted to double check them. And the problem I have is I thought car 88 was... Oh, hang on, there's updates just coming in. Just give me a second. Updates are just coming in. I just heard car 53 was released back to the track. So what happened was that there was a crossing of wires car 88 and car 53 were told to return back to pit lane. They were actually in. They've now been released back out to the track.
Okay, so that's maybe a little bit of a stutter step for them as they look to try and now they're going to be looking to gear this up and say, right, it's not been the most ideal start. Now Brenton Hobson's able to go out there and the cycle's going to be slightly off. Kieran Potter right now is first car out there on the track. Now I put this to you here, David. Would you rather be out there and pushing out there at the moment as they go through, or are they going to go through? And critically for it, as they're trying to get those laps, would you rather have draft or not? How about how they're going to look to push for here this super pole? Scott, I'll actually throw that to you first and foremost.
I found my unmute button. No, I'm not looking for any slipstream in wet conditions like this. I'm looking for clear track. I'm looking for a dry line to begin to form after the rain continued to fall on the racetrack in between the sessions. And there is heavier rain coming. This could be the best of the track early.
Yeah, so rules are simple here. Qualifying top 15 cars are invited to this Super Pole session. It will be held in a quote-unquote a warm-up session, so there's no limit on laps or tyre usage. All cars are allowed to be on track at the same time. They aren't allowed to escape, so they've still got the red flag rules that are in play. And speaking of which, oh, that's hefty for Hayden Veld. It has not been great out there, and that pretty much is going to be a how is that still going to go?
Well, the engine's in the back. They've only knocked the front off. It must have been made of cardboard or cardboard derivatives.
Ha! So the front fell off. That's the problem. Over the top of the hill. And again, just trying to catch it first time and then out wide, Scott, into the puddle.
Yeah, and did you critically remember that lap that we did on board during the middle of the session? So that's how they've ended up the front off that car, because they're actually not too bad up until that point. But did you see how narrow that groove was compared to the previous session? So you guys were talking about, we were sitting around with no cars actually out on track for a period of time towards the end of the previous session, but there was a longer gap again, and this session's only going to get worse. So the best laps are up front in this session.
They absolutely are. 219.2 for Proline, Orbit, Jupiter at 221. Oh, and Damon Woods is slow out there. I wonder whether he's just going for track position here to try and get to the back of the train. It looks like that for me as he falls behind Jake Edwards there. And Eddie Bestwick, who remember wasn't able to get that second time in, David, is in that final session of qualifying. He got absolutely smashed up from behind, but he's now clear by almost half a second.
Yeah, so we've got two factors sort of going against each other. The longer you run, the more a dry line can be formed on the track by the cars, the more temperature you can get into your tyres. The longer we run, the closer we get to some heavier rain. So somewhere in the middle of the two, we find ourselves, at the bottom of that curve. So I think they're all still improving onto their next lap here, with the exception of Kieran Potter, who runs a little bit wide and finds the nasty puddle. Beswick goes faster. Damon Woods sets the purple first sector. So that car that was quickest in the open qualifying session now gets into Sud Speed Super Pole, and Woods just waited patiently to set himself up, and he is flying now.
Yep, he needs to be on this good lap. He knows that the Falcon Sim Racing team have been there, so this is Hayden Veld trying to get back to pit. You can see how much toe out it is as he goes through there, and he has to jump across the chicane there to get into pits, and really tough scenario to deal with. But once you're in pits, you can get a fresh car and you can jump back out again. So that's really important here, that drivers are eyeing that up and saying how good is that as they look to try and put the effort in. Down to 9 minutes 50 seconds here in qualifying. Critically, it's effectively final 2 minutes is your last attempt, because you're on a hard cut basically at the end of this qualifying session.
Yeah, so, and that was said to the drivers as well, so they're aware of it. That's not something that's been hidden. They're aware this will be a hard cut at the end of the session. So, yeah, and for me, you've probably got to start it with about, 2 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock, probably a fraction earlier than that. But that number one car hasn't set a lap. This is their opportunity. This will be their lap they set here. This is critical to their session. They need to get this lap together. Sean Campbell goes quicker. At the moment, here comes car 100.
There is 300s there splitting them, and there goes Pulse Melbourne then up to the top. Dennis Gatarek then. Pulse Melbourne Lexus Blueprint by Alexo SSR. Eclipsed again by Falcon, who put a 270 flat down. They have blown this open, David.
Yeah, and they're one of the few Ferraris that you see up the top there. It's not a Ferrari fest in the top 5 spots, but they have got this car all worked out. Damon Woods is a little bit of a freak, and if they've got a wet setup specifically for this qualifying session, well, it works really, really well. Tomorrow's race could be something else, but that is just fiendish.
It's the greatest compliment you can give a driver out there in sim racing world, Scott. That's alien.
Yeah, absolutely aliens. Just looking at the manufacturers, there are 4 Ferraris in this game. There is a boatload of Porsches, and I think there's 2 McLarens and 1 Lamborghini is what we're looking at in terms of the manufacturer. Sorry, there's only one McLaren that's actually in this session. So about half the cars that are in the session are the Porsches. You've got 1 McLaren and 1 Lamborghini in terms of your breakdown on those 4 Ferraris. That's what compromises
Hobson.
this field.
Oh, it's a big smash up over the top of the mountain. 3 are involved in it. Rodrigo Mies is in it, and so is Damon Woods. That's a huge accident over the top. It was Hobson in the puddle over McPhillamy.
2 Porsches and 1 Ferrari are heavily damaged, and it looks like Brenton Hobson in the Synergy Sim Racing car is trying to move, but one of his own tyres has fallen off, and then he's driven forward onto it, high-sided himself, and I think he's beached himself on his own tyre. It starts with him, it's wide, it doesn't turn in at all, and then coming back onto the track, no room for anyone to react.
Oh, he's just had another one go in. Jake Edwards has gone into him now. Just live there. We caught it in the bottom right corner. Jake Edwards has had his own moment, and he's gone straight into there, trying to avoid with his own damage, straight into Brenton Hobson there. He's caught him absolutely flush, and so now everybody is turning around and going, well, do we even have a car for the final 5 minutes, Scott?
Yeah, that's the problem. Are they going to have enough time to get tyre temperature? I think. Well, yeah, okay, so tie requested. That'll be the end of the session if this gets red flag. If that's the case, there is not enough time on the board to get everyone back to pit lane and reset this session. Super pole could be a super short and super pole.
Well, it could be super short and super sweet for Damon Woods, who's got himself 1.3 seconds. He's still beached there on the tyre. We're waiting for race control's decision here. Red flag is called, and that will do it. That will do it. Here in Speed Super Pole, it will be Falcon Sim Racing, who with 3 wheels on their wagon out there, David, will be starting at the front tomorrow morning.
I'll wait 6 minutes before I say it that enthusiastically. The red flag's been called. You've got cars that are now heading to the pit exit. If we get a green flag with if we get a green flag with more than about 2 minutes 30, you could get around and do a lap, and that's what these cars are betting on. You don't guarantee it, but I put it between a 0 and 100% chance that we do get a restart here that's meaningful.
Well, they've got to get every single car around. This is the last car out there. It's up at McPhillamy Park right now. It's Luke Fallon. By the time this car comes back down into pit lane, this Porsche, number 118 here, Scott, is going to be at least 4 minutes remaining on the clock. They will have 1 minute and 20 seconds to get this track cleared and allow the cars to go back out again.
It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's not enough time. And that rain, well, I'm seeing blue skies at the moment when I look up from towards Skyline across the destroyed chassis of car 88, and it's blue at the top of the mountain, but there is heavy rain coming. They've got to get the problem is tire temperature. That's the big key, and you just cannot get it. The circuit will continue to soak up extra water. I reckon this session was actually going to get quicker before it got slower again, so I didn't think that was necessarily a mark of what the pole was going to be, but the time has elapsed, the opportunities have elapsed. 4 minutes on the clock, yeah. Remember, we said you've got to be started by 2:20. They're not going to get around to the line by 2:20.
No, and I think that's critical as well. So you've got to get out lap and around and then get a flying lap in. They're not going to do that on a hard count session end like this. They can line up down at the end of pit lane as much as they want, this session is in the pocket and out of sight. So as far as it looks, Vulcan Sim Racing Team will be there on the pole, and it will be Pulse Melbourne Lexus Blueprint by Alesco SSR who are alongside them. They are allowed out here with 4 minutes to go, but I think they're just not going to get enough time. This is what we would call here right now, David, that desperate attempt to get around in the hopes that this is going to work, and I don't think it will with the time they've got.
Well, a bunch of them have kept the same tyres on. So Eclipse 67, DPR 11, Vermilion 101. Unfortunately, for 2 of the cars you see here, the 78 and the number 1, they were involved in that incident, so they had to pit to get their damage fixed, and in that I think the car is reset, and so too are the tyres. So look at them to tippy-toe around here a little bit more than some of the other cars that have stayed on their tyres. Rain intensity has moved to 4%. It was sitting stationary at 2, but now it's just beginning to pick up.
So if it's just slightly picking up as well, it's just another factor that makes it exponentially more difficult for these drivers, and they are pushing right now over the top. Rodrigo Mees, then Damon Woods, then Hayden Bell, Kieran Potter follows on behind them. They're going to be practically pushing each other. They've got to get to the line in 23 seconds, and I think that it's going to shut on all of them at the moment as they try and go around. They realise this at this point in time. They are going to be shy. They're going to be on Conrad, and they are going to be locked out on another lap out there. Damon Woods and the Vulcan Sim Racing Team officially have pole in the Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12 Hour presented by Player One Sim Gear. They take the Sudspeed Super Pole.
What a session. Think about everything that's happened in the last hour and 20 minutes or so. What a session. What does water do to this race? It just changes things, doesn't it? It's not the same things that we've been looking at by any stretch of the imagination. These guys are going to get an opportunity over this last 2 minutes to just look at this racetrack, inspect it, look at every little puddle on the way around, and think about 12 hours of battle tomorrow. It's a Ferrari on pole. Last year, 12 months ago, we were talking about the Acura Cup. We were talking about a manufacturer that stormed to control this race and control large sections of it. But the heavens open, Jay. The heavens open, and the mountain chooses its champions.
It does, it always has done, it always will do, and I so still think that it's going to be critical in the hope that this session doesn't hard count over. They are still out there trying to put these laps in the case that it does, and this is why you see, look at the tail kick going through at Quarry Corner, turn 2. David, they are trying to cover off every eventuality here.
But the rain has come, and the intensity of the rain combined with the time left in this session is going to lock in this result. They can show us what they were capable of, but I don't think anyone can dethrone Vulcan Sim Racing.
I don't think so either. 30 seconds remaining on the clock here. No one's going to get around in time before this session finds itself to a close. The question will be, we expect this one to be closed. We'll just wait for the I's to be dotted and the T's to be crossed in terms of this one. Bell down the hill, just, oh, look at that wiggle, heading over in towards there, that wonderful Forest Elbow corner, and now the timer will tick down to a next to nothing as they will look to cross, and this one is going to right itself with a checkered flag. 5 seconds remaining on it, so the laps won't count, and the field is now set here from this one. Rodrigo Mees with damage on the front there as they go through. That'll do it. And there is your Sudspeed Super Pole, all wrapped up with a nice, neat bow. Confirmation then that Vulcan Sim Racing Team will be in control of racing action tomorrow morning with Dennis Gatterick and Pulse Melbourne Lexus Blueprint by Alesco SSR alongside 1.3 seconds the difference. It's then Eclipse SimSport Core Temp who find themselves third with Momentum Racing 78 fourth, and Orbit Drop Bear Jupiter will line up from P5 in the McLaren. Team Rapid Theft Racing 73 with William Sapstead. They're sixth with Momentum 778 in 7th position. Proline Esports are in 8th position with DPR Racing 9th, and Vermilion Esports 101 will get at least one car inside the top 10. Your top 15 will be rounded out by Vermilion Esports 112, Player One Racing, One Performance Racing, and the reason of the red flag, Synergy WK and P Sim Sports 88. And then Eclipse SimSport Bowler Media, number 53, making up your top 15 there as they go on through. We're going to take this time now to have a wonderful chance to chat when we get to racing action, which will be coming up 8:45 a.m. All 12 hours of coverage will be live. You'll be catching it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick, wherever you may be watching it. Your Sudspeed Superpole has gone the way of the number 1 team, Falcon Sim Racing team. We've got Damon Woods here alongside. Damon, simply put, the way that you can unlock your car compared to where everyone else can't right now in those wet conditions was masterful. 1.3 seconds clearing qualifying. That's got to be a huge smile for you and the team.
Yeah, I mean, considering when we saw the forecast that it was going to be potentially raining, we were a little bit worried, I can't lie, but yeah, we created an absolute rocket ship of a car. Like the thing was absolutely planted across the top. I could place the car wherever I wanted to. I could balance it against the walls, and there was no problems at all. So I'm a little bit unfortunate that I kind of messed up a little bit of the lap under the tree, but in the end, I mean, I still can't complain about 1.3 seconds in front. So yeah, I can't be happier. And to be honest, big thanks to Marina Morel as well. Unfortunate that their car didn't get into the top 15 Super Bowl, but he put in so much work on this set. So yeah, big props to him, and yeah, we'll see how we go tomorrow.
12 hours will be eyeing it up. Your choice of the Ferrari. I know some drivers like the Ferrari, some don't. Do you think it gives you the best amount of balance over the course, over the top of the hill?
Well, I mean, for the official 12-hour, we mained the Ferrari. We made a late call to the BMW, but yeah, our sister car ran the Ferrari, and we had a really good baseline for this car. So when we saw the BOP, we were like, all right, well, Ferrari's a good option, and we know that the car is very, very fast in the cold conditions. And looking at the forecast, it's looking like it's going to rain in the hottest part of the day. So hopefully the track temp stays low, and then we should have a rocket ship. If it gets dry, towards the end of the race. So I'm pretty hopeful. Hopefully we can go for that 3-peat. That's the goal. And got Cody and James Buemi in the car with me this year. So really, really good to see James compete, considering he kind of got robbed a little bit in the official 12 hours. So a little bit of redemption for him. But yeah, again, our main goal is to try and go for that 3-peat.
And so with that 3-peat in mind, of course, that international flair with James Buemi there along with you. So I would look around at this team and say, on paper, it's one of the strongest teams that we've got here in this. You've got the best possible position to go out and work there. Are you just taking this as just another 12-hour then, as you're looking to push for it? Or are you turning around at this and going, look, this is our time, this is our opportunity, and we've really got to make the most of it?
Look, to be honest, I'm looking at it as another 12-hour. Realistically, luck has to go our way as well. It's shown in the past that there's plenty of safety cars, so we've got to be on our A game in terms of strategy calls. But we've proven to do quite a good job with that in the previous years. And look, if it rains as well, I mean, I think we're in pretty good stead. So yeah, we'll treat it like a normal 12-hour race. Plenty of time to get into it. We don't need to be setting lap records. We just need to try and control the pace, build gaps when we need to, and just execute what we can.
It's a team that's looking dominant on all fronts of GT racing. The Falcon Sim Racing team have the pole position then, thanks through the Sudspeed shootout. Damon Woods there joining us and getting a wonderful result in for the Falcon Sim Racing team. Second in terms of where the field sits is Pulse Melbourne Lexus Blueprint by Alesco SSR. David Haynes has caught up with Dennis Gatterick.
Well, Dennis, an incredibly challenging set of qualifying sessions with some interruptions, very busy out on track, but you guys have managed to pull through all of that to put yourself in a great position come tomorrow's big Player One Sim Gear OSR Bathurst 12-hour.
Yeah, we can't believe we're here, to be honest with you. We were expecting more of a top 20 than a P2. got some good advice from my teammates, just kind of saying a little bit less lead foot, and yeah, it worked out.
And what do you learn for tomorrow on where your strengths are at in changeable conditions? We know that anytime it's dynamic track, even if there's no rain, parts of the day will be cold, parts of the day could be hot. And again, now we know parts of the day could be wet. How do you adjust for that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's the one thing that will help is the kind of the in-car adjustments now, so you can adjust the ARBs and the rear wing on the go. So it might be down to who gets those right through the race, but no, I think we have a good car sort of in each and every one. Well, obviously everyone's probably done a million laps in practice, so I think everybody reckons they have a good car. But yeah, I think it's just nailing those micro adjustments and sort of keeping as consistent as possible. That's going to be the most important.
What was the biggest challenge on a wet lap when the stopwatch is ticking?
Turn 3, not turn, but like the cutting. Just tipping it in there, you get a bit of aquaplane, and every single lap you don't know if you're going to end up in the wall or not. And even though you only just glance the wall, it's a 0x, and your lap time gets deleted, right? So every single time you're sort of sliding it through and just hoping it doesn't hit the wall there.
What's the division of duties going to look like for your team come tomorrow?
Well, they've said that I'm doing the wet, so probably the second the rain falls, I'll jump in. But yeah, we're gonna have a bit of a play tonight, and we'll see who's starting and finishing. Yeah, it's still decision pending.
I think Ewan's over in New Zealand, so you can maybe leverage the time zone differences to make him start, and you can have a little lie-in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not the first time I've slept in when I was starting the Bathurst 12 hour. So I think Ewan's going to be starting this one. But yeah, it helps. I think for him it's 11 a.m. versus ourselves, which is kind of 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. So yeah, it definitely helps.
Well, best of luck tomorrow, and yeah, keep that car clean.
I appreciate you, David. Thank you.
Dennis Gatterick there joining us, getting second position overall. The team that managed to find themselves then in third position overall was Eclipse Simsport Cortem. Scott Ranke has caught up with Eddie Bestwick from Eclipse Simsport Cortec, and also Gianni Lutzu, who has been in the Eclipse Simsport LDP 556 car.
Hey guys, obviously very, very positive qualifying session. Up and in that top 3, and it was realistically a challenging session. Fired out into a hefty part of rain. What was the first half of the session just seemed like for everybody, it was just setting the session up, trying to find that line and just survival. How did you go about that one to start the session off, Eddie?
Yeah, just a usual wet session. Obviously, warming up to it. The car's not going to go fast for the first 2 laps, so just seeing how it is. But the rush here was there was another band of rain coming in, so it was going to be the first 4 laps that we knew where the lap time was going to be. So first 2 laps get set in, and then hoping to get 2 push laps, and yeah, good enough for third there.
Mate, challenging session to say the least. Obviously, just get through and qualify the car to third. The biggest challenge now is 12 hours worth of attack tomorrow, and how you go about that. We were just talking to the guys just ahead of you in their car, and a little bit of chatter about time zones and management across that, but it's also the rules and the regulations. This isn't just a generic jump in the car, do as many laps as you want. You've got to manage driver time tomorrow, so the calculators, I'm sure, are going to be absolutely fried by about halfway through.
Yeah, luckily I'm in the best team to do it. We've won the last couple of years, so we've got the minds to do it. I'm hoping we won't mess that up. But yeah, the challenge is I'm over in America, so my race is starting at 6 p.m. So I got to get my hours out of the way, and then I want to go to bed. So it's always a challenge, but we've got the experience, so I'm sure we'll be fine.
And Gianni, would you like to back that up from your guys' perspective? Because not only just managing an international driver, but the fatigue management, this racetrack sucks it out. It really, really does, in the wrists, in the application, in the concentration, and then just add water.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's definitely a race of duration and definitely a race to try and sort of put yourself in the right position and yeah, make sure that you conserve your energy as well. Because I think Bathurst is probably one of the hardest tracks to maximize your performance. And I think because the walls are so close, you don't really have that much time to think as a driver. And then, like you said, just add water. So I think, yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting race tomorrow. I mean, we're a little bit more buried in the pack, but again, it's a long race, and we got a good car underneath us, and of course we got a few cars to work with as well, which will obviously help our race out quite a lot. But like in a lot of these endurance races, you can be at the front, and you can be in the best spots. Sometimes it's better to be further back. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's a long day. You never know what can happen. So it's definitely a race full of mystery. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm being told, unfortunately, we're out a little bit of time, but I had just one more quick question for you, Eddie. Obviously, quite quick on low fuel in the wet on board that Ferrari. What's the race run pace like? Is it still nice and pointy, or all of a sudden, gallons upon gallons of fuel really change things?
No, we got a good race car. That's where the focus is. 12-hour race. With our car, the Damo would win it from the back. So we've got a really good race car, arguably better than the quali car. So it's comfortable. That's the big thing. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, boys, go hard. Eddie, go and get some sleep, mate. Being over there at that time of day at this point in time. Hey, 12 hours worth of racing to come, Jake, and the Eclipse. Well, like they said, they're chasing a three-peat, so their head's in the game.
Their head's in the game. I think every team's head is probably in the game at the moment, and they know that from the Sudspeed Superpole, this has been an almighty challenge to try and get yourself up at the pointy end. Tomorrow, though, when the sun starts to rise, that's when it's all going to be in play. 8:45 a.m. Australian Eastern. We will start at that pure sunrise. You'll get half an hour in the dark. The sun comes up, and it's one of the truly unique 12-hour races because you get the true sense of running from dawn till dusk in terms of a great endurance race. I know I'm going to be here. I know David's going to be here. Scott is going to be in and around in the car trying to get some driving out, and there could be some special guests. So you'll definitely want to tune in for the start of the Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12-hour presented by Player One Sim Gear, because you never know what will happen in a race like this. A big thanks, of course, to Player One Sim Gear, the title sponsor, as well as Logitech G and Bin the Blade for Balin, iRacing ANZ, and of course to Sudspeed for racing action. From Scott Rankin, David Haynes, Jake Kennedy on production, my name's Jake Sperry. The field is set for racing action then for tomorrow morning, and it is as exciting can be. Vermilion have themselves with a lot of fun in Cup. They've got themselves on the pole position there, but they have dropped back those 10 places for an incorrect number, which puts Australia-wide Racing Blue at the front of their category. But it was all shocks as the rain fell, and it was a case of who could get themselves a lap time at the best of times. They only had one lap in the end to make themselves available, and flying high around this Mount Panorama was a Falcon in the number one.
And this is the fastest click in the world. Powered by revolutionary HITS technology. With custom actuation, rapid trigger reset, and click intensity. Tuned to your competitive play. We didn't just evolve the click. We reinvented it. Built on the precision of Hero 2, trusted with Lightspeed Wireless, forged in a championship-winning design, and made yours through G-Hub. Pro X2 Super Strike. Designed with pros, engineered to win.